the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Our God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring alive. He's roaring like a lion.
God's not dead.
Let love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to see a revolution somehow. Let love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to bring a revolution somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Our God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living
And good morning, folks, to Tuesday, November 14th, 2017, 8th year of Chungi, 9th month, 26th day. By the heavenly calendar, I'm your host, Hyung Shon Moon, the second king of Chunil Goop. Thank you for joining us this morning on this, it's not super frigid today, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay. On this beautiful day, let's go first to hear something about the weather.
Okay.
Tim, the agent elder, Tim.
It's 26 degrees and cloudy at the Cheonggyeong area this morning. I wouldn't say it's frigid at all. We are a few degrees below our historical average. Historical average this time of year is daytime highs in the low 50s and nighttime lows in the low 30s. So going up to 46 today and going down to 25 tonight, we're a little bit below the average, but I wouldn't call it frigid at all. It's comfortably cool, I would say. Is that okay? Cool. Yes, comfortably cool, I think, yes, for this time of year. If you look at the radar, did we look at the radar? There's a little bit of, if you look carefully, there's a little bit of snow just south of Binghamton, wow. But you can barely see it. It's so small. There's basically nothing on the radar this morning. So it's working up to be a nice day.
Alrighty, well,
you need me to keep talking?
No, I'm still putting on my coconut oil because my face is so dry.
All right, let's see. Deadly earthquake hits during live TV broadcast in Iraq. A man challenges 105-mile-an-hour winds atop Mount Washington. Those are some of the weather-related headlines this morning. Cold nights to endanger thousands left homeless following deadly earthquake in Iraq and Iran. Yeah, I think we'll
that
maybe,
was a big one.
Yeah, there's about 400.
7.3, huh?
Yeah, but 400 people now are said to be dead from that earthquake. And by the way, there may be a storm brewing this weekend as we get closer towards Thanksgiving this weekend or early next week, but we'll have to wait and see what happens with that.
Oh my goodness, it's already Thanksgiving time, isn't it?
Well, next week is Thanksgiving, yes. Next
week is Thanksgiving?
Yes, Thursday of next week, yes.
Oh my goodness.
But before that, we have Children's Day this weekend.
That's right. I know your Children's Day. Wow. Okay. Time is moving so quick. What is it today? It is the 14th.
Yes, it is the middle of November.
The 14th. Incredible, folks.
Yes, we're in the
Okay, Tim, thank you for that update. Let's go to our Rima today. We are in Micah in chapter 5. Okay, might as well start at the first verse because the second verse is where I came, but might as well start first. Now gather yourself in troops, O daughter of troops. He has laid siege against us. They will strike the judge of Israel with a rod on the cheek. The coming Messiah is number 2, verse 2. But you, Bethlehem, Ephratah, though you are little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of you shall come forth to me the one to be ruler in Israel, whose goings forth are from of old, from everlasting. Therefore he shall give them up until the time that she who is in labor has given birth. Then the remnant of his brethren shall return to the children of Israel. And he shall stand and feed his flock in the strength of the Lord, in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God. And they shall abide. For now he shall be great to the ends of the earth, and this one shall be peace. Wow. Amen. Now, this is talking about the coming Messiah. I heard a wonderful debate between Dr. Dan Brown, who's a very high-level scholar and apologist, Christian apologist. He's a Messianic Jew, so he's a Jew who converted. I believe he was Orthodox Jew. But anyways, I heard him debating a rabbi, Orthodox rabbi. And it was absolutely phenomenal. It was really good. But, of course, the whole discussion was around Isaiah 53 and the idea of whether or not Isaiah 53 is prophesying the returning Christ, and whether or not that person that is talking about is Jesus. Now the rabbi was trying to say, well, Isaiah 53 Let's look at Isaiah 53, and I think it's around verse 12 and such things like that. But he was talking about, the rabbi was saying, well, this could be talking about, he believes that it was talking about all prophets or all messengers of God, and not specifically about, Yeshua. Okay. Okay, number 3, verse 3. He is despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. Okay, yeah, keep going down. Okay, surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. And he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement for our peace was upon him. And by his stripes we are healed. Okay, stop right there. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. Now I believe in verse 12. Okay, go down to verse 12 or something like that. Let's see, verse 12. Right there. Yes, he shall see the labor of soul and be satisfied by his knowledge. My righteous servant shall be justified many, for he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore I will divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he poured out his soul unto death. And he was numbered with the transgressors. He was born many sins of many. He made intercession for the transgressors. Okay, keep going down. Is that it? That's the end? Okay, let's see. That's the end of Isaiah 53. Okay. Yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him. Okay, go down to 10. Oh yeah. When you make his soul an offering for sin, he shall see his seed. He shall prolong his days. And the pleasure of the Lord shall prosper in his hand. Wow. Okay, let's go up a little bit. And they made his grave with the wicked, but with the rich at his death, because he had done no violence, nor was any deceit in his mouth. Okay, let's go all the way to the top. Okay. Okay, anyways, so what the discussion was, what this is obviously about, if you know Jesus, is of course about Jesus. It's quite obviously about Jesus. And we had there's the rabbi who was saying, well, it could be about all messengers of God, or speaking generally about martyrs and things like that. And Dr. Brown was saying, no, if you look at the Hebrew, it's very clearly in the singular. It's not plural. So I'm going to take the text literally. And he said, well, he had children, and because you talk about the seed there. He will see a seed. And Dr. Brown said, well, that could be spiritual seed. That word for the seed there is only used once in the Hebrew Bible. And it means more like generations. So he will see his future generations, etc. And his main point was that there's no other prophet. He was saying, name one prophet or man of God that the Bible refers to in that kind of exaltation. Okay. It's only the Messiah. Only the Messiah is referred to in that type of exaltation. He is righteous as a God, and he will sit at the right hand. I mean, this type of exaltation, he would say, name one place in the Bible where any other prophet is named with this high level of exaltation. Okay. And the rabbi couldn't answer it. The rabbi could not answer. He could not answer where in another place that would be considered to be a prophet. Okay. So when we look at a scripture, there are prophecies about Christ. In this one in Micah, out of Israel comes one to be the ruler, whose goings forth are from the old, from everlasting, from God. Therefore he shall give them up until the time that she who's in labor has given birth. Israel will be persecuted, will be under the Roman Empire. Then the remnant of his brethren shall return to the children of Israel, and he shall stand and feed his flock in the strength of the Lord, in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God, and they shall abide, for now he shall be great to the ends of the earth, and this one shall be peace. And we see that Christ accomplished that. Jesus became the most well-known human being on the planet, Jew on the planet. The people of God abide in him. He shall be called, he shall be great, and he is great. The whole world knows him. To the ends of the earth. And this one shall be peace. And he did it not by conquering like Islam. He did it by the love of God and by the gospel message and the power of his sacrifice on the cross. And of course, that whole scripture in Isaiah 53, where he was bruised and he was suffered for our transgressions. He's like, this is clearly vicarious, what do they call? What's the theological vicarious restitution or something like that. Anyways, through Christ. Through Christ's suffering.
Vicarious redemption.
Vicarious redemption there is. We are redeemed. We did not have to go through that, but our sins were paid for by Christ. Okay. Vicarious redemption. So, even when we look at scriptures that are prophesied about the Messiah, we can see that Christ did such a thing. And he wasn't just a Jew who faded away. He is the most well-known historical Jew ever. And he is the most that have made his believers protect and love Israel and Jerusalem and the chosen people. He has, for the most, he has, just historically speaking, converted more people to recognize the Jews as the chosen people of God than any Jew in history. So as a Jew, anybody who's a Jew should be proud of Jesus and Yeshua. Because there's no Jew or no Jewish king or King David, nobody that comes near him. Nobody that has conquered the world as he has. None. There's no one. So he does stand and feed his flock even to this day. The strength of the Lord, the majesty of his name, of the Lord God. Look at that. In the majesty of the name of the Lord his God. They shall abide, for now he shall be great to the ends of the earth, and this one shall be peace. I mean, it's like such high exaltation, which in the Hebrew and Jewish tradition is forbidden. This whole section is about Zion's future triumph and the Lord's reign in Zion, etc. The coming of Christ. Look at this one. Robert Morris Page, the physicist, wrote, as the father of the U.S. radar, he wrote, the authenticity of the writings of the prophets is established by such things as the prediction of highly significant events far in the future that could be accomplished only through a knowledge obtained from a realm that is not subject to the laws of time as we know them. One of the great evidences is the long series of prophecies concerning Jesus the Messiah. These prophecies extend hundreds of years prior to the birth of Christ. They include a vast amount of detail concerning Christ himself, his nature, and the things he would do when he came, i.e. Isaiah 53, things which to the natural world or the scientific world remain to this day completely inexplicable. the power and majesty of God through the person of Yeshua. This should be a point of great celebration for the Jews. At the same time, we can see the nature of human nature here. Because in the same way that most Jews rejected Jesus when he was alive, and in the same way that many Jews today continue to reject Jesus, even though he is the greatest king they've ever had, ever. In the same way, Christians should realize that when the Lord is second advent, when Jesus returned, in Jesus' return, they too will not accept him. I heard one guy speaking with, this was another interview Dr. Brown was doing. A guy who now is a missionary in Iraq with his family. His wife is there, kids, raising his family there in Iraq. And he was saying, he was warned about it, Christ. You know, he believed that Jesus is going to return in the next 100 years or so. But the point was, he was saying, look, Christians, we have to be aware, because when Jesus comes back, we may reject him. We have to be very careful to not be like those who rejected him when he came back. Do you think Sumbongyoe or these major big churches would have accepted Jesus at his time? A poor pauper from Nazareth, whose dad, worked wood. Do you think these powerful elitists and politicians would bow down to this pauper? Do you see how hard that is in terms of human nature? When Jesus returns, the prophecy is in the Bible, there's three major aspects. Right? One, he will divide good and evil. There was three of them. I used to always talk about it. Now I can't remember them. But he will divide good and evil. He will establish the kingdom and kingship. Yes, he will judge evil. And of course, he will establish the kingdom and his kingship. Oh, yes, I'm sorry, the bridegroom, of course. And he will be the bridegroom. He will be the bridegroom that will gather all the brides of Christ, or at least those who are ready, as the gospel talks about, with the lamps, those who are ready with their lamp oil. Bridegroom, judge of evil, and King of kings. Three main identities of Christ in his return. So we know there's going to be a marriage or something around marriages. There's going to be a bridegroom, and there's going to be lots of marriage ceremonies, celebration. Who in the, not only 20th century, in the historical realm, was known for worldwide marriage. Not any other pastor, not any other, Jew who, when all the pastors were bought up by the centralized state, was condemning the nature of Satan's kingdom, which is collectivism and communism, who initiated VOC worldwide to fight communism, because that is the sort of ultimate political expression of Satanism on earth. And of course, extremely democidal. And who established the Christian kingdom and kingdom. There's no other pastor who worldwide, as the bridegroom, married and blessed the world in marriage. Who else judged the world, and especially evil and communism? The evils of Satan's kingdoms. Who else judged them on such a massive scale? And who else established the Christian kingdom and kingship? I am the second Christian king. Isn't that incredible? That's pretty amazing. But we have to expect it, because look at this. Just as the diaspora or the Jewish community still rails against Jesus as being a fake Messiah, and etc., etc., but every Christian knows he's the Messiah. I mean, it's so obvious when you look at the scripture. You look at what he's done. You look at how he's conquered the world. You look at how he has done it through love. You look at how he's brought Judaism to the world level. I mean, it's just like, how can you not see this? But Jews do not see it. They're forbidden by tradition, and their rabbis are controlling them to not see it. And there are ministries that go to Israel and actually try to witness Jews to make them Messianic Jews. But it's interesting because when you see some of those clips that they have, some of the ministries have, they're talking to Jews and like, do you know who's the most famous Jew that ever lived, and things like that. And then they never think it's Yeshua. But when they talk about Yeshua, and then they talk about Yeshua, and they talk about, and if you repent, accept him, you'll see a lot of these Jews on the ground, they accept Jesus right away, if it's properly explained and contextualized to them, and they're not in the presence of their controlling rabbis. So is there a massive revival in Israel? I don't know. We don't know. But should there be? Of course, the Jews should be accepting of Yeshua. The Jewish diaspora has spread to the world. You know, there's Japanese Jews, there's Korean Jews, you know, with bloodline lineages that actually trace back all the way to Israel. Who knows? Nampyeong Moon may be somewhat Jewish. We don't even know. But we see it in the patterns of human nature. The Jews completely rejected Jesus. I mean, how many? Only 12? The other ones saw him as a miracle worker, but you had 12 and not all of them were Jews. So you had such a small population of Jews that even believed in Yeshua. So even the Christians, at least the well-meaning Christians and the mindful Christians and the real reflective Christians, they say we must be careful. We must be careful when Jesus returns. Because we too may reject him because of our churches or because of our ministries or because of our whatever, we too may reject him. And that is a grave sin. It's not like automatically everybody will know that he is Jesus. And of course, they point to Daniel 9. Daniel, let's go to Daniel 9. There it is. We're in Micah 5. Let's go to Daniel 9. And this is the chapter they point to, okay, in prophecy. Daniel 9 should be, yes, the 70 weeks apart. It should be a 20, 26 around this area. There we go. Okay. And he's talking about 70 weeks, the 70 weeks of Daniel, etc., etc., etc. This is the prophecy of the future vision of when Jesus will return. 70 weeks are determined for your people and for your holy city to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Now, therefore, and understand. Know, therefore, and understand that from the going forth of the command to restore and build Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublesome times. And after the 62 weeks, Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself. The people of the Prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end of it shall be with a flood, until the end of the war desolations are determined. Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. But in the middle of the week he shall bring an end to the sacrifice and he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering. And on the wing of abominations shall be one who makes desolate, even until the consummation which is determined is poured out on the desolate. See that? There's a scripture in 27. See that? In the middle of the week, which means mid-trib, he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering. See, so a lot of Christians say, and it's not even biblical, but a lot of Christians say, because there was one preacher who talked about that and extrapolated from that one verse here, he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering, that, number one, the temple has to be rebuilt. Number two, there has to be sacrifices reinstated. And number three, that all those things have to stop by this king ruler who will stop the sacrifices after the third temple is built. So a lot of people in prophecy are still talking about the third temple has to be built, when it's not even in Daniel. You see? You read it. You read it with your own eyes. All that is said is the people of the Prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. And of course, this is, you see how the sanctuary and city are destroyed right after the Romans come in 70 and conquer Jerusalem. The city is further separated and destroyed. It's only reinstated until 1940, what is it, 7? 1948, right around there, 1940s, late 1940s, where Israel is finally given back or created back for the Jews. Of course, we know there's a lot of funny business with the international bankers in the Rothschild group that actually wanted to move the Sabbatean Jews back, or the esoteric occult Kabbalist Jews, into Israel and make Israel a shining example of occult, fallen, Satanist Judaism, and then claim he was a king. Okay, we know that. But of course, I was wrong. But the city was destroyed. There was the war in Israel. What was the War of 6 days?
6-day war was a...
That was in the 60s or 70s.
6-day war was 70s, I think.
And that was a reclaiming of...
67.
Yes, and that was the reclaiming of Jerusalem.
67.
That was of Jerusalem, right?
Yes.
So that was the first time where the Jews could actually enter back into Jerusalem. So isn't it interesting? And True Father had in 1960 was declared true parents. Wow, isn't that interesting? 7 years after a true father declared true parents, you have the entrance in Jerusalem. 7 years, within 7 years. So right here you see in Daniel 9:27, the third temple does not have to be built. There's nowhere in here that says the third temple will be built. There may be trying to extrapolate from verse 25 that says, "Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command to restore and build Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublesome times." So they're saying that the street shall be built again, and the wall. And Jerusalem, of course, has been rebuilt into a modern city. But nowhere does it say that a third temple will be built, and in there will be sacrifice, and then he will bring that end of the sacrifice. You see that? Nowhere does it say that. But he shall bring an end to sacrifice offering. That's all it says in verse 27, that he will bring end to sacrifice and offering. And we see now prophecy is being fulfilled. We see the two main prophecies of Israel and the third Israel, Korea, now are the main tinderboxes that are occurring in the world today. We see a serious escalation in the Middle East. And of course, North Korea has not let up and is still trying to escalate with Trump, although they have not done any nuclear testing as of yet. They've been quite quiet in terms of testing bombs, haven't they? Missiles.
Since September 15th, yes. They have not
fired
any missiles or tested any bombs, yes.
And they had mysterious earthquakes and collapsing tunnels right around Punggye. That apparently do not look like earthquake waves. But we don't know. We don't know what's happening there. But it's interesting, you have both Israel and Korea now under tremendous danger. Tremendous danger. But again, Daniel, you do not see that whole scripture about the third temple having to be there. That is just a non-biblical interpretation in prophecy in the prophetic tradition that people have become used to expecting when the Lord returns. True Father has become the bridegroom. He has collected the brides of Christ. He has condemned political Satanism and communism, which is its full manifestation on the earth. And he has condemned, bridegroom, judge evil, and king. And he's established the Christian kingdom. He established the Christian kingdom as the King of Kings. So the prophetic tradition in the scripture, again, creates much confusion for people. And it's hard for people in the flesh and naturally to just accept it. Just as it was, you can see how hard for the Jews is to this day, 2,000 years later. They still have a hard time accepting Jesus and the rabbis. You can see it. So don't feel discouraged or dissuaded and belittled when people cannot accept Father as a Messiah. That happened with Jesus for 2,000 years. Martin Luther was super frustrated with the Jews because he wanted to witness to them and evangelize them. So you have to understand, it's hard for people to see and to understand that. But for Christians who are awake and have discernment, the reign of the kingdom of Chanyaguk, the kingdom of God, the Christian King of Kings, and the reign of the rod of iron, at least in image form, has arrived. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
Until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can't stand on mountains. You raise me up.
Oh, 658. $614. 646. Time 471. Hello, folks. I'm Justin Moon, the president of Car Firearms Group, and today I've got the PM40 with True Glow night sights, and look at that, Magna porting. Magna porting. Look at that porting on that. This is our standard PM40 with the day sights, but now this model with the Magna porting and the True Glow night sights. What a difference. The 40 caliber PMs have a reputation for being quite a bit of a kicker. They do kick a lot. And so we put the Magna porting on these PM40s, and boy, what a difference does that make. It really makes this PM40 shoot a lot softer, reduces the muzzle flip, the recoil comes straight back into you, and becomes a very manageable pistol.
And we are back. Welcome back to the King's Board this Tuesday, November 14th, 2017. Second King reporting live to all the kings and queens of the Kingdom of God. Good morning. It is 5:40 a.m. Now, let's go to our headline news on judgeboard.com. And one of the top stories there, look at this. Michael Savage, another book he has released, God is Not Dead, Man is Dead to God. This book is entitled, let's see what it's entitled. It's entitled God, Faith, and Reason, which is scheduled for release Tuesday. He is a New York Times bestseller, including his latest, Trump's War, His Battle for America. He is, of course, the host of the Savage Nation, michaelsavage.com. He is a major talk show host and speaker, one of the kings of radio. And he's talking about God and faith. He says, I'm not a holy guy, I'm not a holy roller, I'm not an evangelist. I'm not better than the next man, I'm just really talking about my odyssey. I'm still questioning myself and my existence. What's it all about? I believe God wants us to question. Savage's questioning, in fact, has company in the great Jewish King David, who in many of his biblical psalms boldly expresses perplexity and even unhappiness with God's ways. The creator of the universe apparently isn't intimidated or offended by doubters, but he does reward those who earnestly seek him, Savage has found. In fact, he's convinced that the search for God himself is the finding. The looking for God is the finding of God. Seek and you shall find. God wants to remain mysterious so we can constantly look for him, said Savage. If we could touch him, see him, or feel him, we would dismiss him like yesterday's newspaper. That's what they did to Jesus, and that's what they did to True Father. He reasons that if we didn't think there must be something to explain at all, we wouldn't be asking this question. Even the atheist who dismissed God is saying that there must be something. He said, it's all an accident. How is this possible? A recent caller to the Savage Nation named Michelle, who identified herself as a Roman Catholic, challenged Savage on his contention that the search is the finding. By making the search your goal, you're using a Jewish mysticism of some sort, Michelle said. And it's that kind of thinking that has moved many Christian churches from orthodoxy to concluding we each have our own God. And he said, I didn't say we have our own God. What I'm saying is that in a nation where there are so many atheists who don't even believe in God anymore, because they've been so disappointed by their church and synagogues who have failed to lead them to God, I'm saying that the search is the success itself. That's much different than saying we all have our own God. He emphasized he is trying to reach out to skeptics who have completely disengaged from their religions of their families or ancestors. I want to bring them back to God, not back to some touchy-feely Hollywood religion. He dedicates his book to God here. He observes a culture that's gone from St. Christopher medals hanging from car mirrors to dream catchers and voodoo beads. We've lost faith in every institution. We've lost faith in Trump. We lost faith in politics in general. We've even lost faith in organized religion, he said in the interview. In the book, Savage illustrates Western culture's general deadness to God in a chapter that delves into mankind's two natures, the flesh and the spirit. He points out how psychiatrists tend to address the war going on inside between those two natures. He writes, if a person comes to them and says, oh, doctor, I have two feelings about it, two thoughts about everything, their only answer is, all right, here's medication. He noted to michaelsavage.com that no society on earth has ever been as drugged as this one, ever, both illegal and legal. Sounds like a society of drugged zombies, all a manifestation of a spiritual program. This is the problem with Western medicine, and Westerners can't really see it, but now I think they're starting to see it. But you don't only have illegal substance abuse, you have tons of medical, quote, prescription abuse. I mean, people, it's like ridiculous. Westerners just think when they get older they have to eat pills. It's such a crazy ideology. That's a very unhealthy, you think you have to eat chemicals? Like that's a part of aging? That's crazy. It's totally insane, but thank goodness people who have alerted other people about the pharmaceutical industry and the poisons inside all these drugs, the arsenic, the different types of nuclear substances that they use for nuclear bombs that are also in there as well. I can't remember the name. And it was just ridiculous. Look at this little Thai boxing punching bag and boxing glove here. You cannot fill every hole of the spirit with medicines. One of the consequences of the breakdown of religious life in America, he says, noting the nation's Judeo-Christian roots, is this vulnerability to destructive ideology. That's right. So now where are we with this polyglot nation of 100 gods and 100 languages, he said. No unity, no cohesion. Exactly what the New World Order wants, a nation of broken, disparate elements that can easily be molded and pushed into a new ideology. Exactly. That's exactly it. Exactly what the New World Order, look at you use New World Order, see? This is, of course, a phrase that the elites used. It was not what they called conspiracy theorists were using. They were just mentioning what the actual elites used. And it's basically a New World Communism. That's what it is, okay? So worldwide communism. Exactly what the New World Order wants, a nation of broken, disparate elements, so they're easy to conquer one at a time, that can be easily molded and pushed into new ideology. And of course, the new religion was that we're all the same, is relativism, right? the idea that all these religions are the same and they lead to the same mountain. And of course, the elites will lead us up that mountain because they're the ones that we should trust and put our faith in with the politicians and the governments, etc. And this was their religion. This was the New World Order religion. They knew that human beings could be led to the occult and to the one world religion, which we pushed by the Catholic Church, by the Pope, you name it, to relativize Christianity and separate it from its orthodoxy and from its real traditional roots, and to make it into this New Age Hinduism or this New Age relativistic Christianity, which is of the belief that all religions are the same and all religions have the same moral values and all religions are essentially made by God and all religions are up the same mountain, which is not true. It's simply not true. They lead to radically, vastly different conclusions, and it's just such a lazy interpretation of religion. Such a lazy, indolent interpretation of religion. It's such a weak interpretation. But of course, most people are so brain dead that when they hear that, it's something they want to hear and it feels good. And it's like, oh yeah, like all religions, there's a lot of good people. So yeah, actually we're all, it's just the goodness within. And, yeah, we're all like of the same goodness. And yeah, these are just these manifestations. And it's so, people want to believe that, but it's not true. Because they don't want to stand up and be able to divide between good and evil. They don't want to be able to discern. And they want to be accountable to a God that has a nature. And his laws come about as an extension of his nature. They want to be told, oh, you don't like the Jewish God or the Christian God? That's okay. You can choose the Hindu God that rapes children. That's fine. It's all the same God anyways. And you can allow for anything. You can just pick and choose your God and just pretend like you're worshiping one God, which is not the case. Okay, so he goes on. No cohesion, no unity in this country because we're so disparate in terms of our ideology and our faith that now we can be easily molded and pushed into a new ideology, that is the new ideology being, once again, the old one of Marxism or worldwide communism. There it is right there. He says it. He puts it right in there. A giant world state that becomes a new organizing principle, the new community of man that Obama tried to sell us. That is the antithesis of this nation, he said, noting a recent survey that found about half of millennials are infatuated with communism. See that? The next generation. And this is always the danger of democracy. Think about when these next generation of millennials and these pathetic, brainwashed children who are drugged out, who are interneted out, who are teched out, who have unlocked no epigenetics and gone through real rites of passage where they actually become men. Think about these pathetic idiots who will then inherit this nation and ruin it to shish kebab. And this is the grave danger of democracy, and this is why, in the end, God will not give the power to the people. He will not. He will give the authority and power to his kingdom, his kingship. It will not be given to the people. The choice of where the nation will go will not be given to the people. It will be given by his law. And the people will be the beneficiaries of that eternal grace. But they won't be able to change it. You see what I mean? They will be the eternal beneficiaries and be able to live in freedom and prosperity and freedom and responsibility for eternity in the millennial reign. But they will not be given the power to change it. Okay? The power of those who will protect it will be much greater than those who try to change it. Okay? Because again, the kingdom of God, everybody will have the rod of iron as well. So if these crazy lunatics try to take it over with a communism or a new world order ideology, they'll be wiped out. They'll be wiped out because peace police and peace militia will be there. Think about it. A nation of true freedom, but responsibility. You can be free. You are free to, in the nation, to have, in the kingdom of God, there is free speech. Nobody can force you to believe in God, as even God won't do that. One must be able to find God. But again, there's no fake artificial safety nets like the welfare state or Social Security, which of course is then used against you and population. There's none of that. So you can't behave badly. If you behave badly, there will be consequences upon you. And it will take years for you to build that credibility back. There's freedom of the press. There's freedom of religion. There's freedom of speech. There's freedom to bear arms. And almost everybody in China will be armed and be trained to be armed. And there won't be a welfare state which you can exploit or implode the family with or kick out men from the homes with. And you won't be able to take over the printing of money and take over the money supply, which will then take over the whole political class and ruling class and create a ruling elite class that can rule over the nation, because the central banks can't control over 1% of the banking industry. So you have a lot of small banks that will be lending, and you have a lot of competition. So the clients and the customers will be able to shop between banks, have more choice, lower interest rates. And since social welfare is illegal for the federal government to do, you'll have a lot of churches doing it, you have a lot of nonprofit organizations do it. But of course, the churches will dominate because it's part of our religion as Christianity to serve and be charitable and to help the poor. It's just part of our religion. It's part of Christian culture. So of course we will dominate, just like even in the secular world and satanic kingdoms, even though the federal government tries to control every Christian hospital, etc., Christians dominate the charitable world. Dominate it. Because it's part of our religion. It's part of our faith in Yeshua. So of course in Chaniguk, where all those levers against us are taken away, we're going to dominate the charitable world. We were talking with Ron Panzer yesterday, who was a nurse for 30 years, and he's been fighting the good fight. And he's been saying that the secular utilitarian view of palliative care has now taken over. But really, it's the Christian, Judeo-Christian view that affirms the sanctity of life and tries to preserve the person's life, because during that last moments of time of palliative care, you may have miracles from God, healing between family members, or whatever the case may be, whatever God would want to use. It was an interesting discussion yesterday. You see? All that compassion comes from a Christian worldview, not a Buddhist worldview, not a Muslim worldview, not a atheist or secular utilitarian worldview. It comes from Judeo-Christian values. See how Judeo-Christian values influence and permeates our entire culture? It completely saturates our entire. And growing up in America, and when I was young, I didn't want to accept that. I didn't want to accept it. I didn't want to accept it. And whenever I heard, people saying, well, that's a simplistic analysis, that is overly simplistic and generalized, I would rejoice in my heart, like, yeah, that's right, yeah, it's not Judeo-Christian values. And now I realize I also, that what kind of led me to try to find something that was comparable outside of Christianity, because I didn't want to accept that it was Judeo-Christian values that actually made this country great. Well, in Asia, they did it too. And in Asia, they had a prosperous, society. But of course, the reality is it wasn't prosperous. It was done by force. The emperors of China were complete tyrants, even Buddhist empires. The Tang dynasty being celebrated as the most prosperous Chinese dynasty from the 8th to the 10th century. 8 to 1000s, 9th to 11th century. That's the sort of ultimate of Chinese history. And it was a complete slave system. There was a humongous slave class. You talking about the wealth? You talking about okay, so? What about human flourishing and freedom? No, there was not. You were slaves. It was tremendous human oppression. A tremendous oppressive force. So even look at Confucianism, Buddhism, Taoism, never came close to creating what the Founding Fathers through Protestant, Christian, Judeo-Christian values created. Not even close. in terms of the amount of compassion and love in the society. And tolerance and freedom, not even close, not even close. Nothing in the world compares to it, absolutely nothing. And you can't deny, see, this is what I couldn't deny, and nobody can deny if you look at history rationally. And the more, of course, you learn, you realize how important culture is and the fundamental ethics and sexual norms of a society are and where they come from then determines what type of society that will be. And because, as Savage is talking about, we have such a disparate, multi-god plethora of, multicultural relativism. In America, look how disunited and look how divided we are now. But really, the division is between two competing ideologies: Judeo-Christian values and relativism, or politically speaking, sovereignty versus communism. The idea in communism being that the collectivism, the idea being is that there should be a superclass which can determine and regulate humanity. Of course, they never say that, but that's what it always becomes. They always sell it as the proletariat and we're powering the people, blah, 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 blah. Lies! It always becomes a superclass which has 90% of the population as slaves, whom they purposely keep poor and controlled and taxed out of existence, that is the middle class, so that they can create the stratification of society into super elite class and serfs. Because then they're easy to control. And they will always crave what you want because you have everything. Meaning that you own all the nation's assets. They will always be slaves to you. And that's why, of course, communism does away with private property, does away with gun ownership, does away with the real kingly rights. I mean, these young people don't understand what the real kingly rights are in this world. In Cheniguk in the Kingdom of God, the right to property is penultimate. The government cannot own the property or land of the nation. Do you understand how important that is? The people will own the property. Isn't that incredible? America now is over 50% owned by the federal government. It's crazy. It's crazy. This is not the land of the free and the home brave anymore. But think about it. In a nation, Chanigo, the kingdom of God, where there's true freedom, but there's responsibility. If you act irresponsibly, you have tremendous consequences. You do not have a system where you can get free stuff from the government forcefully taking it from other people. You cannot do that. You cannot be evil that way. You cannot let somebody else do wicked things for you. And this is why they tempt the women. This is why they tempt the women. Because women are more likely to say, oh, okay, I'll get that. I'll take that benefit as long as I don't have to do it. I have somebody else do the dirty work. I don't want to see about it, but I'll willingly take that benefit. They're more willing to do that. And of course, that's why they're targeted with the welfare state and targeted to say, okay, if you want that benefit, you need to get rid of your man. And of course, they know this psychologically and biologically that women are more dependent because when they're pregnant, they can't do anything. You have to rest your body. You need to be cared for, right? That's why they're attracted to stronger men because even in the primitive eras, when you become pregnant, you can't fight, you can't hunt, you can't wage war, you have to protect yourself. You have to be safe, you have to not move around a lot, you have to take care of this life that's forming within you. You see? So women just biologically are more dependent than men. The globalists know that, and so they target the ones that are more dependent and that women need extra resources that they can't aggregate themselves, just microevolutionarily speaking. So they need the help of other people to do so. So they're more, So they're more willing biologically to accept help from others. And so that can be twisted against them to say that the government will provide for you, they'll do the dirty business of forcefully, with guns, taking from us, stealing from other people, and they'll give to you. But of course, they'll only give you little scraps. And of course, in the end, they're going to split up your family and destroy your children. See. But they use your vulnerability, that you have a biological dependence, and you need to rely on other people to bring you resources. I'm talking about biologically, instinctually. Women have that. It's just built into their DNA. But think about it, in China, that's not possible. You cannot have somebody else, the government that is, do the dirty business and steal from them to get you. So as a woman, you don't have that option. As a man, as an evil man, you don't have that option of trying to collude with this to do that and to steal for yourself. You don't have that option. You can't do that. So think about it. Morally, you're pressured to be good, not evil. Whereas in this society, you're pressured to be evil. And to be okay with a mega state which steals forcefully from honest, hardworking people. That is the blue-collar worker, unfortunately, in America. The hardworking plumbers and the carpenters and the house builders and the steel workers. I mean, these are the people you're stealing from, okay? Who are also trying to put food on their table for their children. But in China, you can't do that. You cannot do that. So you are free. You have the most human flourishing because you're free to start businesses. You don't have to get licenses to cut hair and open up barbershops and open a business. So you have tremendous freedom. But you can't steal from people. Which will do what? Which will force you to not think in a predatory manner, but will force you to think in a creative manner. What can I do for other people? How can I serve them? How can I love my neighbor? How can I serve another? See, your creative energies will not be how to creatively think how to break the law and how to exploit the big state and exploit your innocent, hardworking citizens for your own benefit. No, your creativity won't be used in that way. It'll be forced to be used in, what business should I start? What skills and talents do I have that will benefit other people, and they'll be willing to pay. They're willing to pay for me for that skill and or product for a fair exchange, a free association. See what I'm saying? You'll be pushed towards goodness to make your living. And if you do bad, and let's say you screw up and you get addicted to drugs or whatever, you get screwed up. There's still tons of ways. I mean, you still can get welfare, but it will be through faith-based organizations. It will be through, nonprofit organizations. It'll be through people who don't just throw money at you and just say, kick out your husband. It won't be through that. You'll have to modify your behavior, and they'll keep you accountable. And a good person should want that. Don't you want to be held accountable? You see what I'm saying? I mean, good people want to be held accountable because we don't want to be evil. We want friends that tell us and help guide us and counsel us wisely so we don't do evil. You see, so basically in Chenigok, and of course the predatory psychopathic class, if they try to do evil, they'll be eradicated because we have peace, police, militia, and local jurisdiction and the capital punishment. So pedophiles and pedophile networks will be destroyed, and those people will be tried at a court of jury, and if they're found guilty, they'll probably be killed. Not be given some 10-year, 10-month sentence and get out of jail car free because they're connected to Bill Clinton. They'll probably be given capital punishment. And so that predator gene set will be wiped out very fast within a couple of generations. And the sociopathic class, which is the 40% who follow psychopathic class if they can get away with it, they won't be able to get away with it. So they'll be compelled to be more like the 50% who are normal and want to work hard and build something and serve other people to make a living. You see, so you have like 90% of people push towards goodness, and maybe you'll have 10% of the wacky psychopaths class. But they'll also be wiped out each generation. My dog is saying, praise God. You see that? See how this works? See how China works? I'm thinking about a land where you're truly free. You don't have to go through stupid licensing. You can cut hair. You open up your barbershop out of your back door. That's fine. And people like you're cutting hair, they'll come to you. You don't have to. You don't have to go through this stupid licensing and all this state-controlled licensing to get a medical degree. If you can heal people, people will go to you. You don't have to go through all these things to open up a restaurant. If you cook well, you can open a restaurant right in your house. That's how it used to be in the inns and taverns. You want to open up a hotel and open up Airbnb, you don't have to go through stupid hotel regulations. You can open up an inn in your house. If you have multiple properties, you can develop them how you want for products and service for people. And by the way, all the money you raise is yours. You don't get taxed. All the money you raise is yours. Unlike now, where every paycheck you receive, half of it is stolen from you. Which means what? All those hours you put in to earn that money, the government has stolen your hours, which means they've stolen your life. They literally steal 50% of your life in America. And this is the most free country on earth. How ridiculous is that? That means you can't see your paycheck as hours, okay? You have to see this in the right perspective. You have to see your paycheck as life. It's the hours you invested, and then the return you're getting for those hours of your life that you're investing, right? And hours you'll never get back, by the way. Pieces of your life you'll never get back, right? When the government steals that from you without consent, but you have to do it, otherwise they'll come and send a SWAT team to kill you. You see how that's forceful? See how that's bad? Now look, they're not just stealing from your paycheck for, quote, the greater good. They're stealing from your life, your energy that went into those hours, your creative power that went into hours. They're robbing you, not only of your money and the rewards of your creative activity and your work activity. They're stealing part of your life. They're stealing those hours you will never get back. You see how evil that is? No, in China, they can't do that. They cannot do that. Income tax is forbidden. Property tax is forbidden. Death tax is forbidden. All those taxes, forbidden. People can do sales tax because everything's owned in private. So if you're making some sales on some place, people can agree to say, in this area, we'll have this level of sales tax. But of course, remember, there'll be competition. So if this sales tax is too high here, you're going to go to New Jersey. Right? That's what happens even now. Sales tax lowers in New Jersey, you go shop in New Jersey. Right? But you'll be able to keep 99.9% of all the money you earn. Think how amazing that is. And you don't think you're going to be charitable with that when you keep your money? No, of course you'll be charitable, because you'll be earning them through hard work and goodness and creativity and serving other people. So you'll naturally, and of course in a world of Christian values, so of course you'll be compelled to want to help other people too. You may invest that in helping an entrepreneurial training program for young people so they can start their businesses too. You see what I'm saying? We can use our hard-earned money in better ways than the federal government can allocate them, because 74% of it gets stolen by the bureaucracy. 74% of the money you give, you don't give it, they steal from you, is wasted. 74%. Over 2/3, 3/4 of the money they steal from you, the hours they steal from you, the life they steal from you, is wasted and pocketed by bureaucrats. They cover, and you didn't even give it willingly. You see that? But in China Go, you won't have that. That's why China Go will not only be the kingdom of God, the majority of people will not be deviant. They will not be homosexual sex addicts. They won't do that stuff because that will harm them. The majority of people will be led towards good. The kingdom of China Go will be where people are directed towards the side of goodness. Even though there's a search process, everything, and they'll still be able to search for God, etc., you name it. But they will be guided towards good, not evil. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. We'll be back with more right after this.
When the night is holding on to me, God is holding on.
That's a whole lot of people, and they still not seen anything from it. Unbelievable.
There's the efficiency of communism for you.
You're right, it's government.
Well, we're not even at the full flourishing of communism.
Chinese media is now promoting Xi Jinping as being the savior of socialism, creating a successful model of socialism.
Be the mountain where I run, the fountain I drink from. Oh, he is my song. Let the king of my heart be the shadow where I hide, the ransom for my life. Oh, he is my song. You are good, good. Oh, 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 let the king of my heart be the wind inside my sails, the anchor in the waves. Oh, he is my song. Let the king of my heart be the fire inside my veins, the echo of my days. Oh, he is my song. You are good, good. to me. God is holding on. And when the night is holding on to me, God is holding on.
Hi, welcome to Tommy Gun Warehouse. We have a short video for you this afternoon. We want to show you how to work the action on a P380. This is our very small pocket 380 that it has a very strong spring, to work the slide. And this is because it's a very small gun, and we need to have that extra spring tension to actually make the gun work properly. So today I want to show you how to properly work the action. Ladies sometimes find it very difficult, not to mention some men find it difficult to work the slide. Okay, so I just wanted to show you how to hand a firearm to someone properly. The ejection port should be up, the slide is back, and nothing in the magazine well. Then you take this and you hand it to somebody in this manner. They should then verify that it is empty and nothing in the magazine well. And now what I want to show you is how to work the action on this P380. It's sometimes difficult for men and many times difficult for women, but if you know how, it's not that difficult. So Di is going to start out by facing at a 45-degree angle downrange. The gun is going to be, the axis of the barrel is going to be the same axis as her forearm. She's going to keep it closer to her chest, and then reaching over the top with her weak hand, she's going to make sure that this ejection port is clear, that her hand isn't in the way, because you don't want to have an accidental detonation of a primer and injure your hand. So using the upper body strength, you're going to, just work it together, push and pull at the same time, and lock it back. And it's just that simple. You might not get it the first time, but all it takes is a little practice and learning how to use your muscles, and you'll do just fine. Di had started this just a short time ago, and after the third or fourth attempt, she was doing it perfectly. So thanks for listening. Come down and see us at Tommy Gun Warehouse, and we'll show you this P380. Yes, sir.
And we are back. Welcome back to the King's Report, Tuesday, November 14, 2017. We're all getting excited about the Peace Ninja theme park that may be coming in the future at the Car Arms Tommy Gun Warehouse Factory Land. Peace Ninja theme park. Wow. We have awesome training grounds open to the public as well. And it will be the Disneyland, the heavenly Disneyland, where you can actually unlock epigenetics. How's that? ATVing and Peace Ninja training and tournaments and rock concerts and whatever, camping and hunting and outdoor activity. We're gonna have a lot of also tactical, like paintball and airsoft fighting and stuff like that. And of course, there will be a real gun range as well. Now, of course, that has to be organized properly. Because you can't have people running around while you're shooting on a gun range. So that has to be done. Don't worry, that'll be done organized well. Wouldn't that be amazing? And then that way, so many people can come into contact with kingdom culture and with kingdom ninja. And I think there's going to be an awesome dojo there. So we'll have to maybe bring a high level master to teach out of there. So, anyways, folks, that's of course in the development plans now. But God is good. God is good. What can I say? Now, getting back to Michael Savage and his new book on God and faith, a giant world state that becomes a new organizing principle, the new community man that Obama tried to sell us. This is the antithesis of this nation. He said he's trying to bring back citizens from worshiping the state to worshiping God. Wow. Pointing out that historically such movements promising a utopian future have paved the way to hell because all of those have been collectivist. All of those have been satanic. All of that lead to communism. These millennials, he said, don't know that communism led to the deaths of 90 million. That's conservative, folks. That's conservative. Are you kidding me? Communism and collectivism has led to democide of over 220 million in the last century. That is a conservative estimate. He's talking about maybe about formal communist nations. But you're talking about collectivism as a whole. You're talking about 220 million outside of the world wars. Okay? That's China alone is 90 million. China alone, under Mao Zedong, is 90 million.
The people who starved under communism in Russia, Soviet Union, it's a lot more than 90 million, yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is just China. China has anywhere from 70 to 120 million. And the estimates are not known because they
Cultural Revolution
destroy the bodies. Okay, so he's way underballing. He's lowballing here. In an interview 9 November, when you hear about democide, that's basically a collectivist model, whether it's fascist, communist, or socialist. It's still democide. It's still a centralized state. Okay, that's 220 million, folks. That's crazy. Young people have no idea. In an interview November 4th on the television show Mike Huckabee Today, the former Arkansas governor and president candidate asked Savage if he saw the sharp divide in America today as mainly a spiritual issue or political. You know better than I do, that it starts with the spirit and it ends up in the body, he said. I would love to do a poll on how many people on the left believe in God and how many people on the right believe in God. Exactly. How many people on the left believe in God? How many do you think? Obviously, substantially less than those on the right, because they don't want to be held accountable. They don't want to be held accountable, especially to a Judeo-Christian God who will judge them on Judgment Day. That's just too scary for them. They can't humble it. They want to believe their God. They want to believe they create reality. They want to believe Vijnanayana, which is mind-only consciousness, which then you create the universe. Shut up. Shut up. You know how you get somebody deluded like that to realize that they're not God? Just go and give them a Mata Leon choke. They should start training jiu-jitsu to realize let's see their godhood powers there. That's why jiu-jitsu and MMA and stuff like that is such a safe way to train people to get the hell out of delusional land. Because if you live in delusional land, that leads to believing that you're some kind of superpowers, and that leads you to be attracted to these stupid mangas and these stupid Marvel hero comic books, whatever, these stupid little fantasy lands. And that gets you into this whole world of fantasy land, which then leads to witchcraft and occult, etc. And of course then leads to Satan, and of course leads to you believing that you're God. And you can change the universe with your consciousness and intentful will. Shut up. You get your ashtray beat by a girl on the first freaking date. You understand? You're going to get your ashtray choked out. And I don't care how many hours of meditation you did or how many occult practices you know. Your ashtray is going to go sleep in 8 seconds. I love it. I love the reality of real fighting because it pushes the crap out of you. And thank God in Chinese Peace Militia will be everywhere It's mandatory because then every local jurisdiction will have to be responsible for the security. And so they're going to train all the kids in real combat and real arts that actually prepare them and make them real and, you know, in the actual world, powerful in the actual world. But of course, to obtain that power and technical level, you have to be humbled first. Just ask any of my ninjas. All of them were humbled, every single one. If they came in thinking they're all that, they got their ass beaten. And it's not like, I mean, I'm not being mean or anything. They see that I can literally play with them like it's a joke. They can see that I don't even have to put any effort in, and they'll be completely dominated. And I'm totally protecting them and not getting hurt or injured, but they can't do crap. And it's not like I'm even going hard. And now I have students that have been training for now 2 years who can do it to other new kids easily. And it's not like they're even doing hard. They're being nice. You see, you enter into a new world. You can't be deluded. You can't live in La La Land. You can't pretend you have magic powers. You can't pretend you read Harry Potter and have a magic wand. It doesn't work. That's why I love these arts, just in terms of spiritually training, you know, young people who become very deluded and want to believe in superpowers and want to believe in these mystical powers, and then that tempts them, and Satan tempts them to occult and Satanism, etc., or forms of Satanism. I love it. I love it. I love it because it's so real. It's so truthful. It's so honest. Like, you can't pretend you're badass because you'll get your ass whooped. And everybody will see you get whooped. And so you have to, like, communally be humble. You can't pretend you're something you're not. And this is really wonderful because that sets this sort of ethical framework. And you learn that just by osmosis. You start abiding by these ethical frameworks, and it starts transforming your mind, your neural pathways. It starts giving you a new brain and a new mentality, new ethics. Just by the fact that you're getting beaten up all the time and you believing yourself doesn't work. And so actually naturally you become a better person. You actually become a more good, able type person, even though you may not attribute that to God. You know, you have high-level, fighters who are not believers in God, although the top champions are almost exclusively Christian. Isn't that interesting? The top UFC champions, top fighters in the world, almost all of them are exclusively Christian. They were done a study, I think like 91% of UFC champions are Christians. They are open Christians. When they win, they write the cross on their body or they praise God. I think it's 91%. There's an article on that. Pull up that article. Put up that article. MMA fighters, MMA champions, and Christianity or something like that. But why? Because Christianity makes you loving, makes you humble, but also gives you tremendous drive to preach the gospel and to actualize your own gifts that God gave you for the glory of God. It gives you a true moral platform and a moral framework to work very hard to actualize your your talents for the glory of God. But at the same time, it makes you very humble, so people want to help you, and you'll be more successful. It's just the natural. Yeah. There we go. Christianity, MMA, and champions of the sport. Second one. Yeah. Let's see that one. Look at that. Christian MMA champions. When was this done? Oh, this was a bit long ago. I've seen an early one earlier. Anderson Silva, Ben Henderson is another one that was a champion who was very Christian. Anthony Pettis was another champion who was very Christian. A lot of these guys are very strong Christians. Some of them are more nominal Christian. I mean, John Jones, for example, is a very strong Christian. His dad is a pastor. He's the most dangerous man alive, literally, in terms of MMA. Nobody can beat him. He kills everybody. He's this lanky, tall, black guy. But the kid is incredible, incredible. He just demolishes anybody. I mean, it's incredible. You know, he's such a super athlete. But he's a very strong Christian. Even though he's had troubles. He's had troubles with drugs. He got a little into himself as he got famous. He got into drugs, but now he's back on track, and he's fighting again, and he's champion again, and he's killing everybody again. You know what I'm saying? So the majority, look, it's just the Christian framework creates the most loving, compassionate, but strong people. Strong. They can compete. They're not scared of competition. They know they're not scared of persecution. They're not scared of mockery. Because they're promised that following God, you will be punished. That's Matt, what's his name? Matt something. He was also champion. Who is that? Matt, dang, what's his name? He's a wrestler. Matt something. What's his name? Matt. He's now retired, by the way. There we are. Rich Franco, Shamrock, Diego Sanchez, Randy Couture, Matt Hughes. You know, and they believe in Jesus Christ. John Jones, Cain Velasquez, you know what I'm saying? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Jesus didn't tap. That's a brand of MMA brand. Okay, anyways, there's a reason why. Because Christians are told that you have to be fighters. You have to fight the good fight. Occult powers don't give you that power. They make you introverted, and they make you believe that you have special powers and you can affect the universe with just your mind thoughts. You're deluded. You'll get your ass straight. That's why I love these arts. These are real martial arts that are like, it's developed in the real world of fighting, right? So in the real free market. And in the end, because they're searching for truth, the ethics of it also get connected to Christianity, because Christianity is true. It's true. It is the truth. And it creates the most true societies when it's not centralized, obviously, like the Catholic Church. When it's like the Garden of Eden, like Chanyugu, where people can be free. And there's no super state. Of course, everybody knows the Catholic Church is heretical. There is no cardinal in the Bible. There is no mention of cardinals and bishops and whatever they're talking about in their hierarchy. Popes. I mean, this is not existing in the Bible. This is all man-made, fake-made. It doesn't exist. That kind of hierarchy or structure doesn't exist. And they say, well, Peter was the first pope. Well, Peter didn't even have that. What the hell are you talking about? Mixed martial arts and Christianity where feet, fists, and faith collide. See that? Oh yeah, that's who is that again? He's a nice fighter. He fights out of Singapore, but he's a Brazilian guy. He trains out of he trains out of Evolve Gym out there in Singapore. He was a champ, but he lost. He's got very, very good. He's good in Muay Thai too. Very good. Who's it? I can't remember the fighter's name. anyways, no, it's not Scott Sullivan. It's not Scott Sullivan. Okay. Anyways. The point is, this kind of training leads you to. This kind of training leads you to strong fathers, strong men, training people. Because why? In real combat, the men are the alphas, right? I was training the queen yesterday. She's now trying to train with me every day. Isn't that nice? I was training the queen yesterday, and she's getting much better because, of course, I'm fixing a lot of her weaknesses and bad habits. And she's training many different detailed techniques, which are going to be interesting. And all these kids are going to see the fruits of that. When they train with the queen, they're going to see some of that fruit. But this is like so important because it gives one, in Chuniguk, you're going to have the young people, they're not going to be led to, this kind of brain dead, leftist, lunatic culture where you don't earn things and you use the state to steal from people. You don't earn it. Whereas peacefully militia culture and training is kind of arts. You have to earn your stripes. You have to earn your belt. By hard work, fighting, bruises, blood, all that stuff. Getting beat up, being humbled. You have to earn it. Right? You see what I'm saying? So because the nation is training all the young people like that, the percentage of young people that will become the leftist lunatics who want to, by state power, steal from others and not earn it will be killed off, destroyed. It'll be so antithesis to the epigenetic unlocking culture. It'll be so antithesis to the real Chuniguk culture. It'll be so antithesis to the ethics that you learn in fighting. Because this will be the land of peace, because everybody will know how to fight at a high level. So predators will not be able to exploit people. Do you see? And 90% of the population will be led towards goodness. And of course, they're untaxed too, so they'll be very prosperous, generally, very prosperous as well. So they won't need to have to drool over the superclass, which literally owns 90% of the entire nation, 99%, and then the slave class owns 1%, if that at all. Like North Korea. You won't drool over them because you'll be living prosperous too. Everything the rich man does, you can do too. Land ownership, you can do. Owning weapons, you can do. Traveling around, you can do. Start your own business, you can do. And you will be rewarded based on how well you serve your customers and how good your product and service is. Nobody from the state will be able to pull those levers and manipulate it so that, one person can do better than the other. That's not possible. You, by your own actions and how you serve your customers and how wonderful a product and service you give is the amount you will receive. So it's fair. It's truly fair. And of course, the government won't steal your money that you earn. By the sweat of your brow, the fruits of your labor, you will be able to keep. And of course, again, that doesn't mean you'll be greedy. You will definitely feel charitable. You will. Because look, you will be trained by charitable people. Look at these young kids. They're trained by the Second King. I'm charitable. They learn that. I give them this kind of incredible knowledge and training for free. They owe me big time. I'm charitable. I invest in them because I know that's going to have dividends in the future. And in the end, I know that's going to come back to the whole nation. I know it's going to come back to me because I'm going to have better citizens. I'm going to have better kings and queens to build Chuniguk with. You see what I'm saying? They're learning from charitable people. And then themselves too, they will naturally, like when the kids went to Thailand, they naturally wanted to teach young people. See? They learned that charity. They naturally want to help empower people. They learn that desire and the thirst to want to help people not be preyed upon. Like you want to help people, like literally, like practically, so that they don't get preyed upon. You see that? I didn't tell them to do that. But they're learning from their master, learning from their teacher. Right? They're learning that because that's what I do for them. I'm showing them by how I live my life and what I'm investing in them. Then naturally, what do they have? They had all these skills that they learned, these ninja skills, which are also connected to people and the nation of Chuniguk. Love God, love your neighbor is the motto of Peace Militia. And it is a practical way for young people to develop skills while at the same time serving their nation, while at the same time serving God, while at the same time developing their own personal skill set. Isn't that a win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win?
Lots of wins.
Wow. See, you can't, don't get me started on this. It's like crazy. I can't even get to this article. And it's a long, long article. Anyways, the point is, Michael Savage is saying, hey, we got to get back to God and not the state. That's true. That's true. That's Chaniguk, baby. That's Chaniguk. We'll see you right after this break. Stay with us. More.
I'm down here at the range today. I just learned a new technique from the father of the 44 Magnum, Elmer Keith, which is called shooting out of the notch, which allows you to make really long distance shots and still have an extremely precise sight picture. So I brought my CW9 car down, and with this little gun, we're gonna shoot this little munchkin at 200 yards up in the hills, applying this technique, and hopefully we'll make the shot. To apply this technique, instead of using the blade of the front sight lined up with the top of the rear sight, I'm going to take the dot of the front sight and raise it up so that it's out of the notch, but I'm still going to keep the front sight on my target. Bringing that front sight up like that is going to compensate for the bullet drop over that excessively long distance with just this little gun. So if applied right, we should be making contact. Let's see how it goes. I saw this shot, so I'm a little bit out of breath because you gotta run to make sure that is what I thought it was, and it was. So while making this shot, from that distance with these white dot sights, it literally would cover the entire target. You couldn't see what you were shooting. So using the Elmer Keith technique, you were able to raise it out of the back notch. I can't breathe. Out of the back notch, allowing you to keep your accuracy, aim, and also still see the target, which is key because it was a hard shot, not gonna lie. But yeah, it went great, and Elmer knows what he's talking about. And for such a small gun to be able to take that hit, I'm very impressed with this. All right, guys, be sure to like and share, and I'll see you out on the range. That was awesome. Hey, can I try that one? Yeah, let's do it with the 380. Does everybody have eyes and ears?
And we are back. Welcome back to King's Report, Tuesday, November 14th, 2017. All the kings and queens of the Kingdom of God joining us live with the Sun King of Chaniguk, broadcasting from the Chaniguk Palace Studio. And now let's go to our headline news. Top story, Gadsden locals say Moore's predatory behavior at the mall restaurants not a secret. Not a secret. Roy Moore's penchant for flirting with teen girls was common knowledge, not a big secret around Gadsden, according to some area residents. The Senate candidate has denied any wrongdoing in the wake of the report from Washington Post in which women accused Moore in inappropriate advances. In one instance, a sexual encounter towards them when they were teens and he was in his early 30s. One of the 4 women claims she was 14 at the time, making her the only one whose claims would represent a legal violation. Moore has said he had never met her. A 5th woman came forward this afternoon. Moore and other Republican leaders have questioned why it took so long for his accusers now in their 50s to come forward publicly. And yet people who lived in Etowah County during the time have said Moore's flirting with and dating much younger women and girls was no secret. These stories have been going around this town for 30 years, said Blake Usry, who grew up and lives in Gadsden. Nobody could believe they hadn't come out yet. Usry, a traveling nurse, said he knew several of the girls that Moore tried to flirt with. It's not a big secret in this town about Roy Moore. That's why it's sort of frustrating to watch the public disbelieve the women who have come forward, he said. The mall. Colleagues and others who knew Moore told the Washington Post that he often walked alone around the Gadsden Mall. The mall opened to great fanfare in 1974, anchored by department stores like Pizitz, Belk, Hudson, and Sears. Never heard of Pizitz. It had a movie theater, lounge, drugstore, restaurant, including Morrison Cafeteria. Soon became popular local hangout for us teenagers. Wendy Miller told the Post that when she was 14 and working as Santa's helper at the Gadsden Mall in 1977, when Moore first spoke with her and told her she looked pretty. 2 years later, she was 16. He asked her out on dates, although her mother wouldn't let her go. He would flirt and go out with young girls, go and flirt with all the young girls. He said it seemed like every Friday, Saturday night, you'd see him walking around the mall like the kids did. He recalled being told by a mall employee that it kept watch for an older guy who was known to pick up younger girls. Greg Ladd worked in record bar and music store near Sears in the mall from 81 to 85. The store was just down from the back entrance of the mall near the 3-screen mall theater. It was a popular place for parents, etc. Legat now 59, an off-duty Gadsden police officer named J.D. Thomas told him about various people he would look out for when he was working. One was Roy Moore, he says. I asked him, what did he do? Legat recalled. He said, if you see him, let me know. I'll take care of it. It's just sad how these girls are getting hammered and called liars, especially Lee Korfman. On Monday, Beverly Young Nelson became the 5th accuser to come forward against Moore. And so, are there sexual predators in the Republican Party? Absolutely. In fact, it was the Washington Times in the 1990s that broke the whole pedophile ring that the Bushes were involved in Washington. So, of course, we know very well of the, through the Washington Times, of course, about the sexual misconduct of the Republican Party. And again, when you have such a centralized power and you have this two-party duopoly, what was it called yesterday? I heard somebody call it something. It was fantastic. It was a, I can't remember what they called it. It was basically, the meaning was a two-party duopoly. When you have this much centralized power, you have both the wicked left and the wicked right. And nothing in between. Paul Ryan is the same as Nancy Pelosi. They work for the same goal, same ends. They're the one party of two parts, two heads, two-headed one party, or whatever they called it. Anyway, there was a nice terminology I saw yesterday. But are there predators that get attracted? Of course, yes. Are all these Republicans stainless? No. Is it possible that Roy Moore was a creepy man trying to pick up girls, younger girls? Yes. Is there proof of it? Not yet. There's allegations. Okay, is it possible that a Republican did? Of course. Could he be a predator? Sure. Right? But again, not all men behave like this. And you can't extend this to all men like the feminists are trying to do on their sort of quest to revive and resurrect third wave feminism, which has died, even in the West now, only, what, 11 to 18% now of women only say that they're feminists. Was it 18%, according to Paul Watson yesterday? So you have these kind of politicians when you have centralized power. When people get in power, they try to exploit. Of course, when men get in power, they may try to exploit women. Not all, but there are some that do that. Like you see with the Harvey Weinstein. There are also women who use sex to climb the ladder. Use their prettiness and their beauty to climb the ladder and slut themselves around, sleep around to get up the ladder. There's tons of those kind of women too. Does that mean all women do it? Can you say that because there are slutty women like that, all women are like that? Of course not. In the same way, just because Harvey Weinstein and all these people, and that's probably because that was a known secret. And if this is true about more, well, you know, this is bad. The question is, did he break the law? Is it creepy that he's trying to pick up teenage girls? Yes. Was it against the law in Alabama to date a 16-year-old girl? No. Although right now it's nuts. And it's crazy because even if you look at it now, even in Germany or France, 14-year-old girls can have sexual, what do they call it? Sexual rights? I mean, they can date grown men. I mean, what the hell? It's like ridiculous, okay? And we know the pedophile class and the people who want to do this kind of thing, they get attracted to power. They want to use that power to hide and go into lascivious actions and do these secret cult rituals. Was Roy Moore a part of that? He may be. He may be. If he is and he's tried before a court jury and these things come true, kick him out. We don't want him. We can easily replace him with another patriot. But it's interesting because they want to go, the WAPO and all the Washington Compost and all these, they want to go after Moore so much about his sexual misconduct. But yet they won't even mention one fact about Bill Clinton raping dozens of women, 17 of which he had to settle. I mean, these are not just allegations. He had to actually pay these women money in a court case because he was being sued for raping them. Do you understand? He had to actually settle with them with big sums of money. And the left won't even mention it. They're just starting to whisper about that. Even though they had decades to mention it. So it's just so hypocritical how they just go after Moore because he's a Republican, because he stands more on Trump's agenda side. They tried to do with Trump. They tried to blame him 4 times and bring lawsuits against him saying that he was molesting children or that whatever. He was trying to get underage girls, whatever. All those cases came out to be fake. Literally, in some of them, they were the plaintiff named Jane Doe. I mean, all those cases came out to be bunk, and New York Times, WAPO, Huffington Post had to drop them because they were so fake. They were clearly organized by the left to try to smear Trump, try to pretend that he was some kind of pedophile when he was not in that club. It's the leftist lunatics which are in the damn pedophile club, and that's why they want to blame their enemies of being in them, because they're already in them. So we know the leftist lunatics in Hollywood, and they're already hardcore into these sex cults. The Republicans, if they're in them, they're at least they're in them, but they're trying to pretend to be Christian, so they have a conflict of public persona and private action. Whereas the leftist lunatics don't even pretend to be Christian. So if this is true of what he was doing, is that creepy that he was doing that as a 30-year-old trying to pick up little teenagers? Yes, that's definitely creepy. Are there men who are 70-year-olds that date teenage girls, 18-year-old girls because it's legal? Yes. Is that creepy? Yes. It's pretty sick. It's pretty nasty. I mean, whenever you see pictures of Hugh Hefner with these little Playboy models who are like 20 years old, it's like sick, okay? Are they adults and can they date him legally? Yes. Is it sick? Yes, it's pretty sick. Because you should be attracted to somebody around your same age, because it's not only about sex, it's also about a relationship with that person. And what do you have in common with a teeny bopper when you're 30, 40, 50 years old, 70 years old? My gosh, what the hell can you talk about with a stupid teeny bopper? You know what I'm saying? I mean, all you can do is basically have sex and that's it. What can you connect with a teeny bopper? 18-year-old girl, you know what I'm saying? And you're like 60 years old. What the heck? What are you going to talk about? Oh my gosh, you know, like Justin Bieber. Oh my gosh, did you see his new video? Is that what you're going to talk about? You know, the guys who are dating 18-year-old, they just want the sex, and they don't care about the stupid girl's relationship. Because what are you gonna relate to? The girl has no life experience. She's a brain dead 18-year-old, which is the reason why she's probably dating you at 70 years old. Girls, you gotta be smart. Oh my Lord, have mercy. But again, if these things are true, this is, of course, that is very creepy and that is bad. And if it's true that he was sexually molesting young girls, well, he should be thrown on the bus. Tried by a court of law and jury. If he's found guilty, he should be punished. Just like all the leftist lunatics and Bill Clinton should be punished as well. Thank goodness that's also top news on DrudgeReport.com. Look at this. Sessions, this is also WAPO, considering second special counsel to investigate Republican concerns, letter shows. And that is Hillary Rodham Clinton Foundation. There it is, Clinton Foundation. Including alleged wrongdoing by the Clinton Foundation and controversial sale of uranium company to Russia. And as director senior federal prosecutors to explore at least some of these matters and report back to him and his top deputy. So is Sessions getting some pressure from the alternative news and from Trump? I hope so, because he's becoming totally inept as the attorney general. I hope he can do his job and go after these criminals, which he's supposed to do, and put Mueller and Clinton and all these criminals in, and Comey in jail. I mean, Comey himself is a self-admitted leaker, which of course is against federal law. He broke federal law, and he was the FBI director. And he admits on record that he was a leaker, which is breaking federal law. He should be prosecuted for that. He should be imprisoned. In response, Assistant Attorney General Stephen Boyd wrote that Sessions had directed senior federal prosecutors to evaluate certain issues raised in your letters, and that those prosecutors will report directly to Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General as appropriate, and will make recommendations as to whether any matters not currently under investigation should be opened, whether any matters currently under investigation require further resources, or whether any matters merit the appointment of special counsel. If Sessions does not do this, he should be fired by Trump. Trump needs to get rid of this fool if he's not doing his job. The news is there will be a Rexit in January. That is, Rex Tillerson will be fired in January. That's the news circulating around, alternative, primarily coming from the White House correspondent Roger Stone, who talks directly to the president. So it looks like Rex Tillerson is on the chopping block, that he will be replaced because he has been such a weak leader, and he's not been for the Trump agenda, and he leaned toward the establishment, especially when they said Trump is going to go and make sure you line up with us because Trump is going to not make it till December, which of course he will do, unless of course they start a civil war here. Hopefully they're doing something at some point. Maybe we're going to have all have it out. Trump said recently. Sessions' relationship with the president has been significantly strained since he recused himself from the investigation into possible coordination with the Trump campaign in the Kremlin to influence the 2016 election. The president has publicly lambasted his attorney general and noted that had he known in advance of Sessions' recusal, he would have not appointed him to the post. It was after Sessions' recusal that Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein appointed Mueller III to lead the investigation into the Trump campaign and the Kremlin. While the Justice Department is part of the executive branch, and the Attorney General is appointed by and answers to the President. The White House generally provides input on broad policy goals and does not weigh in on criminal probes. When Trump said during the campaign that he would instruct my Attorney General to get a special prosecutor to look into Clinton to lock her up, a Trump supporter and vocal Clinton critic said Trump having her investigated and jailed would be like a banana republic. Putting political opponents in jail for offenses committed in political setting, even if they're criminal offenses, and they very may well be, is something that we don't do here, he said. But now Trump is the president, and he can go after her, especially if she's done wrong to which she's done. And if Sessions does not go after her, he must be fired. Trump must get rid of him. Looks like, hopefully, this is his last chance to actually be the Attorney General he's supposed to be.
I noticed,
yes, Tim, go ahead.
President Trump is on his way back from the Philippines right now, but before leaving the Philippines, he tweeted, "I will be making a major statement from the White House upon my return to D.C., time and date to be set." It's kind of a mysterious tweet.
Mysterious tweet.
He often tweets mysteriously, and this is another one, but I don't know if that's related to something that you've been reading about just now.
Well, we thank everybody who's praying for Trump and all the brothers and sisters in the body of Christ who are praying for our president. All your prayers have been answered, and thank God he is returning back from Asia safely. Hopefully he has a safe plane landing, etc. All that kind of thing, but thank goodness Trump is on his way back. And ISIS was openly trying to call for his death for ambush and assassinations, but the Spirit of God has protected him, and ISIS has been foiled again, yet again, by the Trumpster. A Rasmussen poll reports daily presidential tracking poll for Monday shows that 46% of likely U.S. voters approve of President Trump's job performance, 53% disapprove. The latest figures include 30% who strongly approve of the way the president is performing and 44% who strongly disapprove. This gives him a presidential approval index rating of -14. The government jobs report for October showed the hurricane hit U.S. economy rebounding strongly, with the unemployment rate down to 4.1.
The president also tweeted about this Rasmussen poll just now. He said, "One of the most accurate polls last time around, but fake news likes to say we're in the 30s. They're wrong. Some people think numbers could be in the 50s. Together we will make America great again."
That's right. They kept on saying that he was in the 30s because they're just saying that they're skewing it, saying, oh, those who strongly approve. But really, his approval rating is in the 46s, way higher than the fake stream media is trying to pretend.
Rasmussen says 46. So Trump says some people think numbers could be in the 50s.
Look at this. Rabid anti-Trumper arrested in California after threatening to go on a killing spree. Look at this whacked out leftist lunatic. And there they are, and look at this whacked out fool. I mean, look at this half-balding, curly-haired, wacky little beta male fool who's an anti-Trumper, and he's saying he's going to go on a killing spree with pictures of guns. I mean, this is how stupid these people are. Smith, 39, was arrested in Orange County, California on November 2nd following an investigation involving the Joint Terrorist Task Force. He was charged with one felony count of making criminal threats after threatening a university professor through emails and posting threatening YouTube videos. In one, he talked about going on a killing spree. Golly. Police recovered 9 loaded firearms registered to Smith after his arrest, according to Orange County Sheriff's Department's official. And look at this. Look, they go through the background checks, folks. They go through the background checks. We're going to talk with our special guest today, which is a humongous honor and a huge surprise. But we're so grateful that it's a special guest coming on just in a couple minutes, maybe in about 20 minutes or so. But we'll be discussing with him how ineffectual the background checks have been and how they're actually creating a gun registry, which is called out by the ACLU. The ACL, the most liberal George Soros-funded institution. Okay? And they too say a gun registry would actually be an invasion of privacy laws. Oh, Lord have mercy. But look, I was watching his son, Eric. Let's leave it at that. We'll leave it mysterious. not Eric Trump, but Eric. And I was watching his son debate about the gun issue. And he was saying that look at all the shootings, the mass shootings. These are done by people acquiring guns through the background check. So creating a harder, stricter, creating more background checks won't stop these gun mass murderers. They want the guns no matter what. And the background checks don't do anything other than register, create a privacy law violating registry, and it essentially tries to eliminate the personal sale of firearms and tries to force the population to go through only dealers which are approved by the federal government, which of course then of course with increasing incremental laws that then suffocate the dealers from being able to sell firearms. Police recovered 9 loaded firearms. Okay. On November 1st, Smith allegedly began exchanging emails with an instructor at Soka University in Aliso Viejo about disciplinary actions taken against him for smoking marijuana when he attended the university. So he's a pothead. Look at this pothead, pathetic little pothead who wants to be some kind of hero to leftist lunatics. Look at this whacked out, crooked toothed, bald, curly haired pothead who is making death threats to people and think he can get away with it. You live in a freaking alternate universe. Give me a break. Check out Google Trans Parade or clips from Trans Parade. I heard that on InfoWars yesterday. I didn't see the video. But apparently there's this ridiculous, crazy footage that Millie Weaver caught and the InfoWars team caught of the Trans Parade in Austin or something like that in Texas somewhere. And they had grown men twerking with little 5-year-old children. And they had grown men with glitter covering their genitals, literally walking around naked, with holding hands with little baby boys 5 years old who are also dressed up as girls. This is a sex cult. They're hyper-sexualizing young children. And they're raising these children. This is why, this is, you know, even if the LGBT community should be outraged at this, because it hurts their reputation. Because they want to adopt children and bring them into this. I mean, you have all these lesbian couples and gay couples that are making these kids dress up as trannies. Little children, 5-year-old dressing up as trannies. And this is supposed to be normal behavior. Are you kidding me? They don't only have trans people reading to you. The trannies are also telling the young children in elementary school, well, you'll be a tranny one day. They're teaching them how to become trans. They're not teaching them how to be soldiers or plumbers or carpenters or people with skills. They're teaching them one day this is normal behavior, girls and boys. You know, I'm a grown man, 250-pound man with big muscles, but you know, I dress as a woman and I identify as a woman because that's how wonderful I am. I mean, look at these freaks. Look at this, look at this, look at this. You have grown men, look at this, folks. Hold on, go back to that picture. All right, we're going to be back with more on that right after this break. Don't go away. $6.58. $6.14. $6.46. Time 471.
Hello folks, I'm Justin Moon, the president of Car Firearms Group, and today I've got the PM40 with True Glow night sights. And look at that, magna porting. Magna porting. Look at that porting on that. This is our standard PM40 with the day sights, but now this model with the magna porting and the True Glow night sights. What a difference. The 40 caliber PMs have a reputation for being quite a bit of a kicker. They do kick a lot. And so we put the magna porting on these PM40s, and boy, what a difference does that make. It really makes this PM40 shoot a lot softer, reduces the muzzle flip, the recoil comes straight back into you, and becomes a very manageable pistol.
And we are back. Welcome back to the King's Report with more on this insane trans international drag queen festival promoting hypersexualization of children. InfoWars has a 23-minute piece on that, but they have another 19-minute piece with some of the footage here. Let's go to that video now.
I appreciate the Foo Fighters as the walk-up song, as the intro, the rejoin music. It's Matt Dubiel in for Alex Jones for the 4th hour. I am broadcasting from the WCKG studios here, literally on the front lines. Now, while I'm 20 minutes removed from the carnage that is Chicago, we are broadcasting from the AM 1530 WCKG studios, where we carry. Gosh, I'm so happy that InfoWars has put out some other shows. Alex is great, but when you're a station manager and you run a radio station, you're looking for more stuff to go with it.
All right, we're going to jump forward to his.
It doesn't mean that everybody who's participated in the movie
or in the media
is complicit. Look at this.
They've got this crazed out fool with glitter over his penis and testicles. I mean, he's completely naked. And he's sitting there in this effeminate pose next to a little baby boy who's dressing like a girl. And then you have these other grown men who are kissing this boy, thinking it's a big joke. Are you freaking kidding me? You don't think this is hypersexualized little children? Making them like the sexual objects, objectifying them to these adults? And these idiots actually think this is cute and cool at the Trans Drag Queen International event? Are you freaking crazy? Crazy? You gotta be kidding me. You're saying this is normal behavior? You're saying this behavior will create prosperity and honest society? Hypersexualized young children, I'm thinking 5 years old. Look at this crap. The kid is like 8 years old. What the hell are you doing, you crazy lunatics? And they're trying to, and Michelle Obama is inviting a drag queen to read to children at a freaking library, and they're telling these, and you know, these crazed out, whacked out, cross-dressing drag queen men are walking around naked with children. Do you think this is healthy behavior? Do you take your children to a strip bar? Do you take little children to see naked women and men prancing around with glittered genitals? Do you think that's normal behavior? They should be, they're old enough to be playing with Disney toys. Well, I guess Disney is supporting this as well, so, I mean, you know, so. Not a surprise! I mean, this is crazy. This is crazy. Do you think this is healthy for a little child like that to be seeing naked men running around with their genitals covered in glitter? What the fuck are you people doing? These people are mentally ill. I mean, they were saying on InfoWars yesterday, look, if you're doing this and this is all adults and it's some kind of big joke, fine, it's some kind of comedy or something, that's all right. But look, these are children. You don't take children to a freaking girly bar or a gay bar or some kind of place where they're walking around naked. People that they don't know, strangers. If you saw this dude with a freaking horn coming out of his head, makeup like the wazoo, with freaking glitter over his genitals, walking around in the park, dancing with little children, twerking with children, wouldn't you say, holy crap, call the police? Wouldn't you say call the police? If you saw some dude shaking his butt in children's faces as they're shouting and putting dollar bills in his thong panties, in this case, he doesn't even have a damn thong on, he has freaking glittered on genitals. I mean, wouldn't you call the cops if you saw this at your local park? What the hell? What the hell? What the hell? And we're supposed to think this is healthy behavior and this is liberal and trendy? This is good? This is good to do? If you are walking down the street, okay, and you're going to pick up a sandwich at the local deli shop, and in front of the deli shop, you have this man twerking his ashtray in front of little children who are dressed up as in the opposite gender, putting dollar bills in his thong, wouldn't you call the police for indecent exposure? I mean, wouldn't you, Tim?
I would.
Wouldn't you call the dang police? What the hell? How can they get away with this? They're trying to push the lines of hypersexualization, push the lines of all these things. They're just trying to sexualize the children. And the liberal lunatics are supporting this? This is their answer? This is what they want to replace Christianity with? Hypersexualized crazies who don't even know what sex they are? And then are trying to instill that in the younger children? This is insane. Crazy insane. Give me a freaking break. Oh my God, what is disgusting. Oh my Lord, that is sick. These people are crazy.
So-and-so's a good dude, and that guy's not a bad guy, and I'm not saying that
Gosh.
in the architecture of
Look
it.
at this
But what
crap.
happens
Look at
is
this.
when it becomes
Look at this
popularized,
nutbag. He's
then
naked.
it's hijacked
He's
for their
naked
general
standing
mission.
next
And
to
I'm gonna
a
take you back to the
child.
beginning.
And that's supposed to be liberal
Now,
and trendy and
imagine
healthy.
the 1950s and the 1960s.
So, if some guy walked up to your children in the park or walked up to your children while they're sitting waiting for a ice cream, in the ice cream shop, and he starts talking to them about genitals and sex, and he starts telling them about oral sex, and he starts talking, wouldn't you have a problem with that? If some dude, let's just say he's just a guy dressed conservatively, like his teacher. Somebody is in the park talking to young children, telling them to come to him and telling them, children, do you know what oral sex is? Children, do you know what anal sex is? Children. This is what your public school teachers are doing to your children in public school through the UN mandate given, and now in Chicago, they're teaching this stuff to 5-year-old children. But wouldn't you have a problem with that if some dude in the park was doing that? You say, what the hell? What the hell is this guy doing? But you don't have a problem with that if the teacher's doing that, some person you don't know and who you don't values you don't know and is supposed to be raising and educating your children? You don't have a problem with that? Hello? Hello? Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! This is dangerous. This is a military operation. Wake up! Wake up! This is a satanic operation to get your children destroyed. Because they know if you're hypersexualized and you're so perverted and you get thrown into the power of sexuality at too young of age, your life's going to be screwed up. You're going to be early. You're going to be having sex earlier, which is going to screw you up. You're going to lose your virginity and abstinence, which will then destroy your chances of holding to a long-term relationship in marriage. It's going to also pull you away from Christ and Christian values. And it's known by the left, communist regimes are known to allow sexual, quote, liberation and freedom in exchange for political freedom. That is always how they sell it. They sell it like that in Russia. They sell it like that in China. They sell it like that in North Korea. We give you freedom from traditional values. Vote for us. We're going to take over. We're going to be communist. We're going to get centralized power. We're going to give you free stuff, but we're going to get rid of traditional values. They always sell free sex culture. And look at what they're doing with children. This is sick. Oh my Lord, it's crazy. You understand? It's nuts. This must be more footage from InfoWars. Oh my God, give me a break. No, 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 no. This is insane. Oh, golly. All right, let's see if they got more clips. Look at this. Look at this. Look at the LGBTQ organization promoting Rainbow Snatch, who's this little boy who dresses like that. Look at this. The LGBTQ community promotes him, makes him into a star. So little children see all that attention, and when their attention craved at such a young age and they want to have some taste of stardom, they can just start dressing up and making themselves up into a woman if they're a boy. And then they'll get this huge fanfare and likes on Facebook, and the algorithms and the dopamine hits, whom Sean Parker, the organizer, first president of Facebook, admits they did it to you on purpose to exploit your holes in your human psychology. These people know what they're doing. And did you see the clip of Sean Parker? I showed in a Sunday service. He said, we knew this was exploiting people, and we just did it. I mean, these people are sick. They know they're exploiting you. They know they're manipulating. They know they're hypersexualizing. They know that they're using algorithms and likes on Facebook and the whole feedback loop of validation process, a feedback loop to get you dopamine hits and dopamine highs, and so that you get validation from these internet systems instead of your own nature in God. And that you're so disparate and you're so mentally broken down and mentally ill that it's so easy to pump in a new ideology that will help them keep power and control. These people are sick. Look at what they're doing to your children and what they're trying to replace Christianity with. This is what you think anybody takes this, and anybody will take you seriously as civilization if your kids are acting like this? Who's going to do business with you? Huh? I mean, who is going to do what diet? What diet? I mean, this is ridiculous. Ridiculous. Oh my gosh, give me a break. Let's see if they got any more clips from that crazy thing. Oh my gosh. I mean, you had these people twerking. You had people twerking at this drag queen thing, and they're men who dress up as women, and they're twerking. Look at this. You have these people, these men, who are dressed up as women in see-through t-shirts with X's over their nipples. And this is a young kid who's 8 years old, and he's interviewing them, and he's, oh my God, it's so cute. Oh my gosh. What are you doing to children? This is super hypersexualization of children. You're doing all these provocative, sexually oriented things, and then these children are being encouraged, and then they're being promoted to that this is healthy, normal behavior, and that they're the heroes. They're the new heroes. Yes, Rainbow Snatch is gonna change the world. She's the new hero, even though she's the boy, but she's the new hero. This is mental derangement syndrome. This is insanity. Oh my gosh, give me a break, man. Give me a freaking break.
It's like, no, you're not. Okay,
what a joke.
And the slap in the face here is they want us to acknowledge them as women. Excuse me.
What a joke. What a joke. You're telling me you want these kind of freaks reading to your children in public libraries, saying, oh, children, you'll be tranny one day too. You'll be just like me. I'm so nice, aren't I? Look at this. Yes, it's amazing. Oh, yeah. There's a hideous grown men dressing as babies saying, oh, I'm so nice. That's race. You're so race. I'm kidding. I go racier than that. Oh, my goodness. That is, oh, my gosh, that's sick. How many gays does it take to run a cable under the stage? Apparently more than 2. I mean, look at this. Oh my gosh, give me a break. And they're throwing dollar bills as this cross-dressing tranny in high heels and people throwing dollar bills stripping. I mean, this is insane. Okay, Tim, go ahead.
We need a couple of minutes to connect our guest, so maybe a good
All
time.
right, folks, we're going to take a break as I cool down because this is just ridiculous how insane this political Satanism is. But thank goodness it's out in the open so that people can see it for what it truly is. We'll be right back after a short break. Stay with us.
I know your heart been broke again. I know your prayers ain't been answered yet. I know you're feeling like you got nothing left. Well, lift your head. It ain't over yet, ain't over yet. So keep walking, soldier, keep moving. He's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring, he's roaring he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion.
And we are back. Welcome back to the King's Report this Tuesday, November 14th, 2017. I'm kind of still speechless after all that international drag queen trans. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's just too much to handle, folks. Too much to handle. But what can I say? We are still in the kingdom of Satan. And that's why it is important for all the co-heirs with Christ to have their crowns and their rods of iron and make sure goodness and righteousness spreads over the earth and not be oppressed and destroyed by wickedness. We are here joined with Mr. Larry Pratt. I'm sorry, sometimes I almost said your son's name, but Mr. Larry Pratt, who of course is the Executive Director Emeritus of Gun Owners of America, a tremendous patriot and an incredible organization, of course, of which I am a member as well. As of course of the NRA as well. But these are patriots that are standing up not only for our right to go hunting or to own these. One thing I love, Mr. Pratt, about many of the interviews you've done, and I've seen the one that you've done with Pierce Morgan, where you just completely, logically, and rationally smashed every single riposte and argument that he tried to throw your way, and just so skillfully and patiently, you know, just threw the facts out. And then he exposed himself as being this emotional, smug, arrogant Brit who was trying to lecture America into submission and mount our heads on a wall and celebrate the fact that he can disarm us, and CNN trying to exploit him as some kind of weaponized, you know, spokesperson to guilt shame us into having, you know, firearms, which we used against the Brits to kick out redcoats like him.
He sounded kind of like a rogue butler that night. He was really out of control.
Oh my goodness. oh, wow, how arrogant. At the end, he was like, you said, when you made your last point, you said, and this was my point, my friend. And he said, you're no friend of mine. We'll be, I mean, it was so arrogant. It was so arrogant. And you were saying the CNN producers were actually worried about that, right?
They were very concerned about it because they saw that he'd been over the top. He was emotional. And while I think a lot of the anti-Second Amendment thinking is emotional, they saw, nah, that's probably not going to play very well. And it didn't. We had something like 1.5 million people get in touch with GOA, become supporters of the work that we're doing. Ironically, it was Piers Morgan producing all those contacts for Gun Owners of America that I think enabled us to give the final push to defeating gun control following Sandy Hook, because that's when we had that interview. It was right on the heels of that terrible slaughter at that school. And this produced so many people who were willing to work with Gun Owners of America that the legislation in the Senate failed by 1 vote. Thank you, Piers Morgan.
Wow. That was an incredible time. And of course, Alex Jones was on with Piers Morgan. You were on in the same week. And of course, you were, and of course, after the interview, which had one of the highest ratings ever on CNN, you had, is it true that you had almost like 1 million new email subscriptions to GOA, Gun Owners of America?
It was just overwhelming. Our server crashed something like, they told me, 3 times. We kept adding more capacity, and we kept getting still the crash messages.
God can use devil sometimes for his purpose and his goodness.
I think he really did use Piers Morgan, and in that way, I'm grateful to Piers Morgan. Yeah.
It's amazing how God turns it around. Especially, you could see how he broke down, got emotional, and he was so divisive. Wow, talking about divisive. He was saying basically, I hate you because you disagree with me. And you are composed, you are calm, collected, you are rational, you are logical, giving the statistics, etc. He was trying to just be this rude, just narcissistic personality. And you were just hitting him with the facts and hitting him with the, nope. Hitting him and calling him out on the different things, that lies he was trying to say. And this was so amazing because it showed the composure. You don't hate other people because they disagree with you. You just don't want them to forcefully be able to disarm the population and leave them as prey to the predators.
Oh, that's exactly right. And I, at one point, asked Piers Morgan that the results of his disarmament, which we saw at that school, nobody had a firearm there that they could use to stop this terrible slaughter. Is he just in favor then of piling the bodies up? He had no answer to that.
Oh, goodness. He has no. So just for the record, Mr. Larry Pratt, do you love Piers Morgan as a Christian? Not his views, but as a person.
I see him as a very lonely man. His personality is not very winsome. And I rather suspect that he's a very lonely guy.
I think so too, which is the reason why he had the lowest ratings. They eventually had to kick him off CNN. Now he's back in Britain and out of America. So that's what happens, when it's so, I think it's very shocking for people, how arrogant CNN was and the mainstream media was, thinking that they could have some Brit lecture Americans. I mean, how ironical is that?
There's something a little strange about the mentality of Americans finding somebody with a British accent to be more authoritative than somebody like me that speaks like an average American.
Oh, goodness. Anyways, Mr. Pratt, we're just always so grateful for all the work that you're doing, your organization is doing. We know that you've come under fire from the media, and of course you've been doing the rounds, even after the Las Vegas shooting, etc. One of the common questions that I saw in many of the interviews that they were trying to stump you with was, oh, but Mr. Pratt, don't you agree that all these, look at the Las Vegas shooting and all these people who were killed with bump stocks, and this man had legally, he got his, AR-15, he had 23 different assault rifles and things like this. And I believe you had a whole discussion with them on background checks. What is the debate on background checks with the left at this point?
Well, the firearms had been obtained legally by this mass murderer. as many of them have been similarly situated. We've done some checking on that, and it turns out that many of the leading horrible cases of mass shootings have occurred with guys who passed the background checks. So this was their first offense, maybe more than a parking violation, perhaps. And so they had a perfectly acceptable record, were able to buy their firearms legally. And in the case of the dirtbag in Las Vegas, he went into a gun-free zone. Now, we don't know how he got the guns, so many guns, up into his 32nd floor suite, but we do know, and this is the one mass shooting that I can recall where so little is known and so little has come out. But one thing came out the other day is that on the 35th floor, right above, obviously, where the dirtbag was, a Saudi prince had his suite. And it's possible that with the diplomatic pouch or whatever, the guns might have gotten up there through the Saudi prince, and then it would not have been much of a deal to get the guns down onto the 32nd floor. We still don't know.
Well, the story keeps on changing. That's what's so amazing. The story keeps on changing.
Yes.
The timeline keeps on changing. They had the eyewitness who called in the cops like 6 minutes before he started shooting on the masses. You know, again, a gun-free zone. Again, a gun-free zone. All the mass murderers, except for four, the mass shootings, except for four.
1950. Since 1950. You would think that maybe with that kind of pattern, we would say, maybe there's something wrong with a gun-free zone. Yeah, I'd say there's something wrong with the gun-free zone. It says you don't have any regard for life and that you're willing to let people get slaughtered because you're so committed to an idea that if we have no guns there, by law, then everything's going to be fine. Well, it turns out murder's illegal too. But we really need to empower people to be able to protect themselves because it takes at least 5 minutes for the cops to get there. That's not a knock on the cops. That's just a fact of life that they're not our personal bodyguards.
Yes, well, so interesting because you had inside sources as well that said it's potentially, and the sheriff in the LVPD as well said there's potential radicalization here. And inside sources, that exposed it through the alternative media were saying that he has elements of radicalization, Antifa plus Islamic Sharia, ISIS propaganda materials, as well as trips that he made to the Middle East in different cruises that he did. So again, I mean, think about it from the perspective of ISIS, who wages war and says chants death to America. I mean, it's not like Black Lives Matter that actually says, what do we want? We want dead cops now. I mean, this is ISIS that says we want all Americans to die, and if you see an American, just murder them, cut their head off. I mean, how happy would they be if America didn't have any guns?
Oh, I think that is the easiest way to facilitate bank robbers, murderers, Muslim extremists, left-wing extremists. By the way, isn't it interesting that none of this violence occurs when it's by being committed by people on the right? These are all people on the left. Now, they say, well, the anti-fascist people. Well, those are communists. And the so-called fascists that they say they're opposed, the fascists, let's remember what the full name of the Nazi party was in Germany, the National German Socialist Workers' Party. Nazi was the German acronym for that party's name. This is all coming from the left. These are the angry, violent people that will kill you if you don't agree with them.
Wow. This is so interesting because a lot of these young kids, there's statistics now, there's polls that show that a majority of millennials, over 51%, I believe it was it? We covered that yesterday. Millennials are now saying they would rather be in a socialist or communist country. They would rather the U.S., this is our next generation, by the way. They would rather the U.S. be a socialist or commie nation. Hello? I mean, why don't those kids be shipped to Venezuela?
They could get that from Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, who vacationed in the Soviet Union at the height of the concentration camps where Christians and anti-communists were being murdered by the scores every day, starved to death, executed by firing squad, and whatever else occurred to these monsters as a way to get rid of their opponents. These are people that don't want to argue. They want to kill us if we don't totally agree with them. And that's Senator Sanders, who is such a hypocrite. But what can I say? That's as a fellow here in Washington on one of our talk stations says, Chris Plant, without double standards, the liberals wouldn't have any standards at all.
Incredible. Now, it's interesting because we know now that Christians are the most persecuted religion on the face of the planet. Hundreds of thousands being massacred, being stabbed in the heart, raped, pillaged, plundered, beheaded. And the UN won't say anything about it. The leftist media won't say anything about it. And why is it that all these groups that have totally radically different ideologies, how is it that the LGBTQ and the left is supporting radical Sharia Islam, and George Soros is funding Antifa, BLM, and Linda Sarsour, who is openly for Sharia law? How is the left, how do they logically ally with the most radical, misogynistic, women oppressing ideology on the planet? It's unbelievable.
I think their anger and their hatred is so blinding, apparently, that they're willing to overlook the fact that if there were an Islamic country established, an Islamic government established, say in the United States, they would be among the first to go. This is the pattern in an Islamic government. When they take over, this is the way they crack down. And the homosexuals are the first to be literally tossed off buildings. We even have photographs of that being done. These folks are as serious as a heart attack, but they have a common theme. The Muslims don't like America, and the left doesn't like America. And so on that, they seem to be willing to cooperate, and the left doesn't seem to pay a never mind to the fact that if they were ever to succeed in tearing down what has made America great and what has made America what it still is, more or less, they would be in a world of hurt.
Well, you know, it's said that a civilization is only as great as its morals and its sexual, ethics. And you see, of course, the left allying with radical Islam, both of which are protecting pedophile cults with the Hollywood scandals and all these kind of things that the left and their sort of hubbub, their headquarters of sexual, free sex culture, lesbian, homosexual, transgender, what they call now minor attraction syndrome, which is pedophilia. Then CNN doing pieces on pedophilia saying it's not a crime, it's a disease. And Salon Magazine interviewing Todd Nickerson, who says that he's not a monster, he just wants to have sex with 5-year-old children. I mean, this is totally normalization using the same political agenda as they use with the homosexual agenda, saying first it's a disease and you have the compassion for them, and then it's genetic, and then it's all the same with the transgender, and now they're trying to do with pedophilia. And in Islam, you have the Prophet Muhammad, who was married to a 5-year-old girl and having sex with a 9 years old. Isn't it interesting that these cultures that have similar sexual norms are trying to normalize this type of sexual norms? All hate Christianity, which is very clear. Jesus said, anyone harms even the least of these, that's the children, may a millstone be thrown around his neck and tossed into the sea. Capital punishment for pedophiles. And protect widows and protect women, vulnerable. And men be alphas and be the head of the household and be Christ in the family. They are waging a war against Christians, men, and the family. And they're allying together in these networks that are like held together by these crazy sex cults.
It's interesting that if Sharia comes to a country, these kinds of sexual practices will be legalized. When America was established and the founders were able to erect a constitutional government, that was for the purpose of freeing up the energy of people so that they could retain the fruits of their own labor, so that they could be productive, so that they could speak their mind. They could be, in many, many ways, free. And with all their flaws, the founders were not setting up the republic so that they could go after children.
That's right.
Which is the purpose of Sharia.
And it's interesting, all those sexual norms, when they become the dominant form, then those sexual norms become the dominant form. And do you really want your children to be able to, some guy to be able to pick up your child at 5 years old and say, I'm here to date your child? Well, apparently the UN and NAMBLA, North American Man-Boy Love Association, which is an approved NGO of the UN, wants your 10-year-old children to have, quote, sexual rights and have an 80-year-old man or whatever, 50-year-old man come and pick them up to date them at 10 years old. This is nothing other than satanic Satanism.
It's very sad, and it's sad because it leaves the most vulnerable open to the depredations of people like you're describing. That's not what a free society is all about. That does not in fact, that's the opposite of a free society. That's a society where predators are free to prey. A free society is one where predators are restrained, where the law is in favor of the weak.
Oh my goodness, I was hearing your incredible lecture. Also, you gave at Liberty University, a beautiful lecture, by the way, sir. And you mentioned the very important Athens, Tennessee, Battle of Athens that a lot of people are unaware of. I was unaware of until I was educated by, your lecture there. Can you share with us a little about the Battle of Athens and why that was important in American history for the Second Amendment?
You bet. In Athens, Tennessee, right after the Second World War, there was a time when very corrupt individuals were ruling that little town. It turned out that during a vote, they had instructed the police to take the ballot boxes from the place where the law required those ballot boxes to remain until the vote had been counted and until the counted vote had been certified, which means double counted, at least one, maybe two checks of the accuracy of the vote. Instead, the police took the boxes to their cop shop, and there they were going to count the votes. And it's been very clear to me that this is something that is probably a universal problem. My wife grew up in Panama. She voted once in her home country, and she saw the same thing happen there. The ballot boxes were taken away illegally by the military, the police. There was one and the same at the time in Panama. And her vote was counted all right, but it was counted probably quite contrary to the way she had cast it. And so in Athens, unlike in Panama, the men of the area responded. In Panama, people knew what was happening. They were disgusted by what was happening, but there was no militia tradition. There was no tradition of people, armed people with their own individual firearms, standing up to the government and saying no, which is what had happened in the 18th century when the United States told the British, you've gone too far, you're no longer a legitimate government, you're no longer our government. But in Athens, the people were able to do the same thing all over again, unlike in Panama, where they essentially had to accept what they saw was being done. It was illegal, it was totally wrong, but there was no means and there was no tradition of standing up to the government, even with arms. And so I thought, wow, I've been given the opportunity in my own life to have a window on the two different kinds of response to illegitimate government. And thank you. I'll take the one where we, the people, are the sovereign, and we retain the means of enforcing our sovereignty, our firearms.
And they actually drove in, right, in their trucks and wagons, and they had their rifles.
They came into town exactly as you described, and they had a brief shootout with the police in the cop shop. and the police decided there are too many of them. This is not going to work out well. For us, they left the ballot boxes, and it turned out that the reform slate had actually won. Nothing like that ever happened in Panama.
Wow, I mean, this is such an incredible, important point that you always bring. I love the fact. I mean, I see a lot of gun activists talking with on different shows, but I love the fact how you always bring it in the end to the core point of the Second Amendment. It's not only so that we have the right to have these weapons. There is a purpose. And it's connected to a tyrannical government that we had to throw out of this country. Could you tell us a little about that?
Well, our Second Amendment is an expression of just what you've been pointing to. It is an expression that the people retain the means in their private ownership of standing up to a government that has gone too far. The founders were born and formed their government. Their government was born, and they formed that government because the government of the time, their government, had become some other government. The British government had gone off the rail. But that was our government here in America. We were just Brits in colonial America. And it finally became something that we couldn't deny, that Britain had gone off the rails. The king and parliament had become dictatorial. They were violating things as old as the Magna Carta from the 13th century and other freedom documents that established the limits on British government. And it was just being swept aside here in the American colonies of Great Britain. And so we said, well, we're no longer your colonies, and we have the means to enforce it. And that's exactly what happened in Athens, Tennessee, and that's exactly what did not happen when my wife voted in Panama.
I mean, it's so critical for us. I believe that in the kingdom, it's of course the citizens are going to be co-heirs with Christ. We also will be kings and queens with the King of Kings, and he will reign with the rod of iron, and he would give that authority to all others in the kingdom as well. And that's why the rod of iron is so important. It's not only a symbolic thing; it is an actual thing that John the Revelator saw. And of course, whether or not you agree with that in terms of theologically, it is such an important tool that is a equalizer of force, even for a woman who is smaller physically on average and just in terms of strength-wise weaker. How important is it for women? If you really love women, if you love humanity, you don't want people to be preyed upon and the vulnerable to be exploited. How can you not be for tools that help them equalize force so they can chase off bad guys who are trying to exploit them? How can you be against that?
In Luke, we have a record of Christ telling his disciples just before he knew he was going to leave this world physically, that he was going to be crucified, dead and buried, to pay for our sins, something that we couldn't do. He told his disciples, look, I'm not going to be with you much longer. And once I'm no longer here, he didn't put it this way, but in effect, he was saying, you are going to have to fend it for yourself. I'm not going to be here to protect you. Yes. And so, therefore, if you don't have a sword, if you don't have, I would think, we quite possibly could say at a minimum a 9mm handgun, probably an equivalent would be an AR-15 rifle. But if you don't have a sword, you go sell your cloak. And for them, the cloak was pretty important because it was likely their bedclothes. It was what kept them warm at night. It's what they wore during the day as they were out in public. It was an extremely important thing. And you go sell that thing that's so central to the way you present yourself and maintain yourself in the world, if you need to get a sword. That's how important self-defense is scripturally. And that was simply Christ reinforcing Old Testament teaching that went to the same point.
Yeah, and really that our right to defend ourselves and our right to life when God gives it to us and to defend that life is a natural right. It is not something that a government gives to you. It is a natural right. It's not a privilege. It's a right. You have the right to defend yourself. And I know the left always goes on about the Crusades even though it was a defensive war and the Muslim invasions had already come into Vienna and also up to Rome,
the
and were
left
overtaking
talks
all of
about
Europe.
the
And of
Crusades.
course, they're going to have to fight back. And the Salem witch trials, which always say, oh, the Christians, you Christians are so bad. You got the Salem witch trial. That was 19 witches that were brewing children in stews and doing, satanic pedophile sex cult rituals. We had a former Satanist on the other day, 26 years as a former Satanist priest. And he's the guy who exposed Planned Parenthood as the sort of gathering ground of Wiccans and Satanists and Luciferians to get access to these fetuses so they can do their traditional satanic rituals which require human babies. I mean, so nobody talks about that the Salem witch trials may have involved those kind of things. They just want to say, oh, you Christians do it too. Oh, you Christians, you did the Crusades, even though Christians were fighting a defensive war in self-defense. Oh, you Christians did the slave trade. Even though the Muslim slave trade was the most brutal slave trade spanning now over 1,100 years, and 2/3 of which were women, which is purely for sex. And it was Christians who stopped and freed the slaves, and it was our founding fathers, 2/3 of which did not own slaves, and it was against the law in Virginia. And George Washington said, "I free my slaves as I die, because it's against the law in Virginia, but I want to free them now." And it was Christians worldwide that stopped the spread of slavery worldwide.
You mentioned the battles in Europe. There were a number of times when Islam was threatening to sweep over Europe. There was one time when Charles the Hammer, Charles Martel, was able to stop them in France in the 8th century. They had come up through Spain, and the people in southern Spain lived under the tyranny of Islam for hundreds of years following that. It took that long for them to, little by little, from the north in Spain, push Islam back to North Africa. This was a desperate struggle for civilization. There was a battle outside of Vienna. I had an ancestor that was moving his home in peace within the state, the colony of Massachusetts, at the very time when Jan Sobieski, the king of Poland, rode to an area just outside of Vienna, the gates of Vienna, if you will, and defeated the Muslim sweep at that time. Islam has been imperialistic, has been a tyranny from the time of its inception, and happily there have been people like Jan Sobieski who were willing to leave Poland and go to was then Poland, now to what is now Austria, and defeat the Muslim tyrants who were sweeping over Europe. We owe a lot to people whose names is hard to even find now in our historical records.
It's just so hidden, and these children are brainwashed by Common Core, and they're made to go to Muslim mosques, and they're made to quote the Shahada, and they're made by Common Core education. Bridget Gabriel exposed this. The fact that our students are now made to actually pretend that they're a crusader and fight against the bad Christians. I mean, this is public school. American public school is forcing our children in multicultural religious studies class to hate Christianity and to see Islam as the conqueror of Christianity. It's so outrageous.
Now, the Poles apparently haven't forgotten this. And when our President Trump was in Poland during that state visit, they seated him at a banquet so that when you took the pictures, he was sitting there under a painting of King Jan Sobieski. I don't think that was accidental at all. They knew exactly what they were doing, because this is the president that said, "I'm here to defend Western civilization against Islam." And they were sitting him under the king who had defended Western civilization hundreds of years ago against Islam.
Wow, it's just like Trump putting busts of Andrew Jackson and putting the pictures of him in the Oval Office. Of course, the one who was against the international bankers and the control of the money supply and getting sold off to foreign powers and be controlled by George Soros. I mean, Mr. Pratt, I know your time is so valuable. I know you have to get running. It's such a great privilege and honor to have you on the show. Well, we had just so many things we want to talk about. I'd love to talk to you again. It's such an honor to be able to meet you, to be able to talk to you in person, at least via Skype.
Let me just invite folks to go to gunowners.org.
Yes.
Get on our free email list, because that's where we get so much done to keep the heat on members of Congress, to keep them from going off the rails.
Folks, everybody in our community, of course, worldwide, NRA supporters, of course, but Gun Owners America, you have to understand, Mr. Pratt and the folks at Gun Owners America, they're the ones who are fighting even more hardcore for gun rights. In the end, they're fighting for the kingdom. They're fighting for your natural rights to be able to defend yourself against predators. What an important spiritual mission, but of course, one that has real implications in the physical as well. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We had a great morning today. Thank you, Mr. Pratt, for joining us. Such an honor. We'll have everybody, we'll see you tomorrow. Everybody stay strong, stay blessed. Have your crown and your rod of iron. And of course, support Gun Owners America. Be a member like me. And we will see you tomorrow, 5 a.m. sharp. God bless, Godspeed, and may his kingdom come.